My favorite was when Shilly and Cooey were in Eveleth there.
Oh God, yeah, we played them that weekend.
Yeah, they made the quarterfinals, and Silly Drobnik had the check ready for him, and they just took it and handed it to the bar.
Right on the bar.
And the bar comes back. Yeah, you guys still owe us another $1,000.
Hey everybody, welcome to Curling Nation episode 12. It's gonna honk on you. This episode's a little bit different. This podcast episode is the Brier watch party we had with Tyler George, Saskatchewan Skip, Matt the Sheriff, Dunstone, and later on the show we're joined by Chelsea Carey, but the conversation we had was just too good not to put out as a whole podcast, because the game that we watched wasn't as exciting, but we had a good conversation with Matt Dunstone, who talks about being in the bubble. Also, Tyler and Chelsea Carey get into a masterclass on the 5-rock rule and how the strategy has changed and how that affects teams. It's a really good episode. It's a really good conversation that they're having. So, this episode, thanks to Alchemy for sponsoring the podcast, as well as sponsoring other curling events, alqimi.com and sweatcedo.com. Use the promo code CurlingNation10 for 10% off your order. And now, here's the show. All right, boys, we're live. So,
perfect.
Don't do anything
for how
different.
long? I mean, how long were we live?
Yeah, about a minute.
Yeah.
I don't think we said anything we shouldn't say, at least in the last minute.
No,
anyway,
we're
so
good.
we're good.
It's all good.
I accidentally closed the game, so I got to bring
Yeah, good job.
Bring it back
Go
up
ahead
again.
and get that back up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I gotta put
Whoops.
the game on.
We haven't had to do tech support for anybody
Yeah.
yet. Matt, do you need any help with your
Who are
computer?
they showing
Chelsea?
this afternoon?
God.
Jacobs and Gunner.
And Gunner, yeah.
Oh, what a matchup.
Yeah.
What the hell happened to Gunner? All of a sudden he's throwing 2 center guards up by 4 points. Who is this guy? What happened to the guy that would smash everything he could see?
He must be smashing the over on his bets. That's my best guess.
The last thing I told Joel before you came on is we're not bringing up any of that stuff while Dunny's on there. 30 seconds in.
Oh, gotta get right into it.
Oh, that's funny. Oh,
Nice.
Did you see that picture of Howard, well, Russ and Glenn and Corner and Wayne that's circulating right now, like from the old outfits, like the fashion shoot they did?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Well, that's like even before Pace Setter.
Yeah.
They had the old Pace Setter jackets in '95, whenever it was.
Oh yeah.
Like, oh my goodness.
It's really
And
something.
they're still curling.
Yeah.
Right?
And still
To me.
winning.
Well,
too.
sort of.
They're
Sort
still winning.
I mean,
I'm sitting here like bad back, bad knee, sore, thinking, God, I'm glad I'm not out there. And there's Wayne making everything, just carrying the team
with
through,
the titanium leg. Yeah.
Yeah, he's on fire.
Absolute animal.
So, Donnie, tell us about the bubble, what it's like out there, and what each day is like. I know you've probably gone through it a million times, but for the people watching here, what's this experience like?
Yeah, we've been here for about a week now. The first few days were different. I drove up with Kirky, and we kind of got to the hotel and had like this eerie feeling like we were walking into prison almost, but obviously a pretty good prison, all things considered. But like he's in the room across from me,
Yeah.
and we just kind of looked at each other and said, "Well, like, see ya."
See you at the
And then it
games.
was like-
See you at the games.
Yeah, 48 hours until we could really do anything. So I've been smashing PGA Tour 2K21 pretty hard here on the PS4,
There you go.
quite a bit to keep myself busy. But we've gone through all of our tests now. Obviously, all of them came back negative, which is great for the event. I mean, for them to be able to do this for the Scotties and now this, I think that's close to 1,000 tests that they've gone through now between
Yeah,
all the athletes, the media. Like it's pretty impressive. I must say one of the tests I got was the worst COVID test I've ever gotten in my entire life. because like for the most part, it's been testing through the throat. I don't know what you guys got down there, but three of the tests we've done have been through the throat.
Okay.
But the one was through the nose.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure the reasoning for it, but we got that done the morning before we played our first game the Friday night. So maybe the nose one comes back with quicker test results. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But there's obviously a reason behind it. And it was the worst thing. Like, I got the nose one done a few times. This one was next level. I looked over at Ducey. He was getting her done before me, and I just watched him put up that stick, and that stick just kept on freaking going and going.
You got the
And then
brain
like
tickler?
Yeah, the brain tickler.
They pulled her out with a fishing line almost. So I was watching that, and as I was watching him, I just started grabbing my seat harder and harder and harder, and my face was getting red. And just give her. And there, which nostril do you want? I said, just fire it in.
Yeah, you almost want the China test instead after that, huh?
Oh God.
Yeah. Oh man. But yeah, I'm glad all that's done. We're all in the clear. I mean, now we can. There's a restaurant here, which has a pretty good menu. We can skip the dishes, DoorDash, all that sort of thing. Get food into here. You're allowed to book times into the gym, just to kind of get out of the room. You got half-hour slots in the gym. They come sanitize it after. Yada yada, all that. We're allowed to congregate amongst each other as a team in a room now, so we can get together, slam back a quick cold one, chat about the game, you name it. We can eat meals together, that sort of thing. So all things considered, pretty darn good. It feels pretty normal. Obviously, you don't get the fun of being in the patch, getting to do the up close and personals, the autograph session, hearing the roars of the crowd. I mean, that's all stuff we miss a ton.
Right.
But when it comes to playing on the ice, the intensity is high as ever. Like, it's one of those things almost like you haven't played for a year basically, and like the testosterone from all the men is just boom. Like all the guys are out there just trying to will themselves to win. It's awesome. Like to be able to feel that again, the nerves, the competitiveness. It feels like any other Brier, so that's awesome. To be able to feel that way again just brings such a huge sense of normality to a curler's life.
Have you talked to some
I
of the
can
new...
say from our point of view too, like just being able to watch and like have that normalcy of, it's March, it's time to watch the Brier, and text with your curling buddies about the games and what's going on. Like it's the most normal things have felt for me, and I can't even tell you how long it's been such a breath of fresh air. And the way you describe the experience there, it makes it sound like Portage, except not last year, every year before. You got electricity and everything, but that's basically what we do at Portage, because the hotel and the club are the same facility, for those that don't know. And you're kind of just going back and forth from the room to the games, and then the hotel, restaurant, and bar, and there isn't a whole lot else to do in Portage, so you wouldn't leave the building most of the time anyways. So it sounds pretty familiar on that end.
And, no, seriously, you're wearing your sweats and your slippers and walking around like you haven't seen the sun for 3 weeks. And, but I mean, it's pretty sweet. Like you gotta do like your daily temperature checks, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and they got this little scan card on the back. I got it right here. So you take this to a screen and you just scan it, so they know as soon as you've left the hotel to the arena, and then you do it at the arena, and then you do it leaving the arena back to the hotel, just for obvious contact tracing and that sort of thing, right? So it's a pretty awesome system. Great stuff they have in place, and it's no surprise that everybody's tested pretty clean over here.
Because you can't go anywhere but the hotel and the arena's across the road, right?
Yeah, it's about a 30-second, minute drive, I guess. But yeah, it's basically hotel, arena. I mean, there's a McDonald's just outside the hotel, but you can't go to. You gotta order it in if you want your McDonald's or whatever. So I packed a coffee maker, because I can't be doing skip the dishes for some coffee. I need that on hand at all times. So I had to make sure I had the coffee maker with me. But right now it feels pretty normal, about as normal as it could possibly feel.
This is your third Brier, is that right? Or
number 3, yeah.
Number 3?
Yeah.
Have you talked to any of the new guys that come that this is their first Brier? Like, have you warned them like it's not really like this, but it's pretty close?
No, I haven't actually, but they'll be in for a treat when they get to their second one. They'll have to make up for lost time in the patch. That's for sure. I mean,
that's real easy to do. For those of us that made our first appearance at a Brier patch last year, I can attest to that.
Yeah, I have to get to a patch.
I haven't been there yet. Hope so.
You never want to walk into a patch and tell yourself, well, I got to make up for missing last night. Because that never ends well. The patch is a whole different event. That one is a true marathon. Whereas the Brier, the playing part, you can get away with a sprint. The patch is a marathon.
Yeah.
Now, Tyler, we gotta keep that advice in mind for the next House of Hearts. Like, we can't make up for like 2 lost years.
Somebody's gonna die at the next House of Hearts. I think.
Yeah. There's already been enough blood spilt at HOH. Like,
literally, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the great thing with HOH though is that you don't have to worry about trying to catch up or making up for anything. Like, it just happens organically.
Yeah.
Everyone's the same. There isn't one that's like, oh, you remember HOH 2014? Man, that was crazy. Like, every year is exactly the same. Yeah. It's just the same stuff.
I also don't remember any of the years in the past.
Yeah. Do you remember HOH? No.
Then you did it right.
Yeah. I know I was there because of how I feel, but that's about it.
You've been there 12 times. You don't remember it? No.
I've been there either 1 or 14 times. It's all the same to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, it's been a long road of those things, yeah. Ugh.
But the worst part of HOH is the 3 days following. That's the hard. That's the hard walk.
It's a solid 3 days, yeah. Wednesday's about when you start to feel like a human again.
You're kind of normal then. You can still kind of keep down food, and you're doing all right.
So, Matt, will I assume you'll get to go home. Are you guys in the slams?
Yeah, so we're going to be in the 2 slams, middle of April or beginning of April, whenever those are. We're going to be in those 2. Our plan is if we take this thing home this week, we're actually going to be here till pretty much the end of the slams. Turkey's playing in the Canadian mixed doubles right after this, and with that time, there's about 10-ish days, and there's actually a rule for Saskatchewan for the 2 other guys. When they go back, they got to quarantine for 14 days when they get home. So with that amount of time in between, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to actually go home. So if we take this thing home, the 3 of us are going to be in the stands with a thin one, I would guess, if we end up Brier champs, watching Turkey play the mixed double and celebrate that for a few weeks. And then right after that, we got the men's world. So we'll have those few days in between where we can celebrate, hopefully.
Right.
And then get some practice time in too. So we could be in here for the long haul. If it doesn't go our way this week, then we'll go home for a bit. Can't really practice much. All the clubs kind of shut her down where we are, so can't get a whole lot of practice in. But then we'll see ourselves at the slam if she doesn't go the way we hope it does.
Will you go back to BC? Because you're living in BC, right? Or are you living in? Or do you have multiple residences? Because you're a big deal.
I live pretty much anywhere, I guess. And not really sure where I call home, but no, I am. My house is in Kamloops, BC, and I know the golf course has just opened up there this week.
Oh, there you go.
So I'm chomping at the bit to get back out on the links. I don't want to get there too quick because that means we don't do too well here. But as soon as it makes sense, I'll be out there swinging them.
Nice.
Maddie, let me ask you about the ice out there this week. Now, a couple things that we saw during the Scotties, and I want to see if it looks like it's the same for you guys this week. Number one, the speed didn't seem to fluctuate a ton. Maybe a little stiff in the morning draws sometimes, but we're looking at maybe like a low of 14 and high maybe 14.8. Is that about the range that you've seen this week?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. The last few games, actually, it's gotten a little quicker. But it's like speed-wise, the ice is amazing. Like, you can throw that 14 seconds and just kind of wait on it, and she'll honk in and give you something good. But you can throw that 15 to almost 15 and a half and sweep it in too. So you got a lot of play when it comes to the weights. It's a little tricky with the curl, and it's right now those hack waders, those board waders are tough shots on this ice. It's just it's tough to know necessarily when they're going to give that dive and when they're going to run a little straight on you. So
that's kind of what we'd see from slam ice in the past. Is that's the break point, like hack board. It was always somewhere in that area where you'd see the big swings and you had to get it before it went or it was gone. Like if you had to anticipate it. It seems like it might be a little more gradual curl here, but it's going earlier. Like you're not really seeing the snaps as much as just once it's gone early, like it's really going hard, right?
Yeah, like, well, you know how it is with the slams, like hog in, those things are just falling off a cliff, right?
Diving, yeah.
Whereas here you're not getting that. You're kind of just getting that slow, kind of constant curl the entire way down the sheet.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tough to make those come arounds around rocks, top of the 8 foot and top of the 4. We're so spoiled, right, to get to play on ice like that. But that's what the slams are like, right? You can make that wrap around a rock top 4 and get it fully buried, whereas you can do it here. It's just a little bit tougher.
Right. And the other thing we seem to notice, I think more in the Scotties than here, but maybe to a lesser degree now, is the end sheets were really getting big swing off of the wall and running a little bit straighter, going the opposite direction. So the straightest turn on any of the sheets was going into the wall on the end sheets. And the most swing you were seeing was coming off of it too. And teams were getting fooled by that a little bit, but it seemed to be happening relatively consistently. Are you guys seeing the same thing here too?
Yeah, for sure. And we've actually, we like the 2 end sheets better than the middle 2 right now.
Yeah.
We're finding them a little bit more predictable.
Right.
Is all. But overall, it's been really good. We've got a pretty good handle, all things considered. We're trying to. I don't want to give too many secrets away here, but we're trying to.
I'm hoping those aren't secrets. If those are secrets to anybody in the field at this point, they're probably at the bottom of the field.
Yeah, that's true.
I hope they're watching,
we're
though. We need more viewers. That'd be great.
I don't know if anybody wants to be taking secrets from a guy who just got spanked 9-2 on TV by Tui. So maybe they won't be listening to many secrets here, but we're trying to stay away from that hack, that kind of backline to board waiter, just because it's like if we're throwing that easy control weight hit, we're finding that way more predictable, running down the sheet, a lot more true, I guess. So we're trying to kind of steer away from that softer sort of game and stick to the harder. That sort of stuff, which typically it would be the opposite. But we're just finding that harder stuff a little bit more predictable right now.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with all that. That's coming across on TV at least, but obviously being up close and feeling it those hack the board weight shots, that's kind of where teams seem to be getting fooled, like with it turning early, like you said. Whereas with the slam ice, you anticipate it, you get the sweep first, and then it goes. But here it looks like it's just, even though it's not snapping hard, once it's going with those particular weights, it's just gone already. So there's nothing you can do.
For sure, you're being rewarded with good throws, and that's the way it should be.
Good.
That's what you want in ice. And you know, if you're straight with the rock, it's gonna, like you said, honk on you. It's gonna go hit the boards. And if you're that super big stab back, where you might get away with that at a slam with that late finish, with that super hard snap, you're not getting away with that here either. So like we're finding it's just that nice, like just back, like just get it running that few extra feet early, and you typically get something good.
So maybe this is a Canadian term, but you've said twice now, it's gonna honk on you. Just so we're clear. What? Haven't heard that one before.
I think that just means it curls late.
That's kind of what it means, and I learned that term this morning after I hit every single guard known to mankind. That's a new term I just learned myself this morning, so I like using it now.
I'm gonna add that in too. I like that one
too.
Yeah.
Who's claiming ownership of that terminology?
I bet a nickel is
Who
Sean
started-
Morris. Who?
I'll unfortunately take ownership of that one.
Oh, okay, all right. I like it. I like it though.
So today's date is the 10th of March, and you officially are claiming, Matt, that you have officially brought honking into the curling world.
It's gonna honk on you.
I guess
That
so.
really honked on you.
You know, that's pretty good.
Brought broken wrists into the curling world today too.
All right.
All right,
Honk,
good.
honk sounds more like a term Mosk might use in the patch at some point.
There's a lot of terms that you don't typically hear that get used in the past.
Yeah.
There's probably some pretty good sounds
That's
that can
what-
come out of that in the patch as well, too, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of sentences you have a hard time making sense of come last call. In the patch.
Also, like on our end, without the crowd, like we're hearing a lot more of what the athletes are saying. So for us, it's just been really interesting.
How's the swear jar been? Have you guys caught a few people?
Oh yeah.
Let
Oh
me know
definitely.
something.
The usual suspects.
Yeah, a couple.
Yeah, yeah.
Not too many though.
Yeah. Not. Yeah.
Not
for
too
Yeah,
many.
the guys have been
I
pretty
mean-
good overall. There haven't been too
Yeah.
many, but
Yeah.
the guys you would expect to maybe have one or two slip have not let us down in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, all reliable.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All reliable.
One year of no curling, and then people still stay the same, eh? I know there's people out there that don't lie. I think it's great. Like, I mean, you mic up any athlete in a sport, you're gonna hear
Oh, yeah.
a heck of a you mic up a player during a football game. God only knows what you're gonna hear, right? So I think all things considered, I mean, curling's the only sport I know of where every single person in the game is mic'd up at the time.
Right.
So I mean, you're out there wanting to win. I mean, I think it's as long as you can keep it respectable and kind of in the right moment. I think it's a great thing for our sport.
Yeah.
I think curlers are remarkably restrained too. I mean, for as little times as it actually does happen where somebody lets something slip, it's few and far between, considering that the competitive level is so high out there. And I think it's a good thing for the sport too, that we heard repeatedly after the games in 2018 that your personalities come across, so you're relatable to people, and we need things that bring people into the sport that other sports don't have. And that's definitely something that we can use as people relate to us. They hear, the human side of things, not just that they get to hear the strategy, why we're doing what we're doing and things like that, but that you actually, hear the reactions that guys have and how they interact with each other, how they, pick each other up, or what they say when they're down, the psychological side of it, but mostly just the human side, that you really get to feel like the guys that are playing, because you can hear everything they say, and that's really not something you see in any other sport.
Well, I think it translates all the way through all levels of curling as well. I mean, where we curl, I don't really hear that much swearing on the ice. When you get off the ice and you had a couple adult pops, then you start hearing the F-bombs and the whatnot going. But it's just etiquette that I think we've always been taught. It's just bad form because you don't know who's going to be on the ice. So you always want to kind of keep good composure, and yeah, you can lose your temper and swear, but that's the good thing about curling, is that when you're on the ice, you're really being professional or athletic, I guess you would say. And
Donnie, I suppose you could probably hear the other teams a lot more than normal too. So you probably pick up on, certain teams that might pipe off a little more than others, and get a chuckle out of the conversations you hear from the other games. Almost like it's like a tour event, except in a tour event, when you're in the club, like if you're not in an arena, then with the echoes and everything, you really don't hear that much anyways. But in an arena setting where it's wide open and there's no fans, you got to hear pretty much everything the other teams are saying too.
No, you're bang on. It's fun because you hear guys getting frustrated, and people hear us getting frustrated, and obviously when the TV cameras aren't on them and the mics aren't on them, people are a little bit more free with their words and how they say it and whatnot. And it's been a blast to listen to, and obviously I'm sure people have had a good time listening to me too, and when I've had my moments. So I mean I just think it's to show you care. I think. Oh yeah. As long as you're doing it in a respectable fashion, I just don't see how it's a bad thing for our sport. I mean, you're seeing true personality, true people like showing how they feel in that moment, and if you can keep it respectful, I think it does nothing but good things for our sport.
I mean,
I think it's a good gauge too. That like if you hear another sheet and guys really getting upset with what's going on in their game, you're like, well, we're not in such bad shape. We don't sound that bad.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he just said something we're not even saying, so we're doing pretty good.
Yeah, I think we're okay, guys. We're not them, so we're all right.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Screw it.
Well, with NFL too,
7-1.
like Tom Brady, you could see him full on swear, like you see him mouth the word, but he's not mic'd up, and commentators like, oops, that's probably not a very nice word.
Yeah, there's lots on the line here. Winner of this event gets $250,000, and you're in the history books forever. This isn't your typical walk in the park event. There's a lot on the line here. Olympic trial spot. Yeah. We haven't played for a long time, but here we are playing at the biggest Canadian stage possible with lots on the line. And, you know, we all got mortgage payments and other things we got to help pay for, right? Like, and the only way you make bucks in curling is by winning.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, as long as you can do it in a respectful manner, I mean, there's lots on the line. We care a bunch, and winning means a lot to us.
Yeah. How do you look for your trial spot?
Well, we didn't get the direct entry into it. So the rumor on the street now is we got this play-in event, kind of in September, I believe it's going to be. Well, if we win the Brier this week, we got our trial spot, and the winner of it's getting a spot there. So I guess we're in that right now. And then if we don't get it this week, in September they're having this 5-team playoff.
Okay.
Which will have 2 spots in it. So I think if one of us, Gunnlaugson, Howard, Flash, and McEwen, that'll be kind of the 5-team event for 2 spots. If one of us doesn't win this week here. So hopefully it doesn't come to that, and we can let them have their little 4-team event, and we can ride off the sunset this summer and get ready for the trials.
Yeah,
there you go.
I don't think any of those.
Joel, you got a question? I know you got to ask Matt. I don't know how long you can stay for, but I think you probably want to get that in before he's got to go.
Yeah. So we emailed you. What's your walk-up song? Like.
Yeah.
What shot are you playing? Like you're playing a hit, you're playing a draw, like, or what's the shot you're playing? What's your song?
Well, I got to stick to the old nickname I got here, the Sheriff, and Sheriff if you want to.
Sheriff
would
who sings that?
Sheriff if you want to by Luke Combs. I got to stick with that. It's not exactly a pump up song, but you know, just
that's your moniker though, man.
How did you get that nickname?
Just hearing the Sheriff getting me going.
Yeah.
You know, as soon as I hear that, it's like, oh, I got to take her to town. Got to make this one.
Got it.
So you got to tell the viewing public where you got the nickname Sheriff from.
Yeah.
Too.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, I'm not going to name names here.
That's fine.
But
so it's Moss.
Well, he was involved in it. It was involved with another team too now. So we were at a slam actually and going through some tiebreaker scenarios, and there was kind of a 3-way mess for a spot in the playoffs, and we had the bye. We had the best draw, so we had the bye. So how it was going to work was the 2 teams who were played at like 8 a.m. or whatever, and then we had our second tiebreaker. We played the winner at noon. And then the quarterfinal would be like at 4. So one of the teams was messaging us saying, who was playing in the game before, saying, hey, what do you guys think if we just play 6 ends? Just because we're going to be playing a lot of games today. And I just went back. I said, no chance we're playing 6 ends. I mean, we're playing a tie. I'm sorry you guys didn't have the better draw. You got to play the earlier tiebreaker, and then you get to play us. We're not playing 6 ends with you. We'll see you at that 8-end game at noon if you win it. So then he comes back and he says, well, the guy beats us once and he thinks he's the new sheriff in town.
Nice.
I'm going to have to ask you off this thing who it was that said that to you. I won't make you say it on here, but I got to know.
Yeah. It'll be even funnier once you know who it is. But I laid down the law. I said, no chance we're playing 6-end games. That's too bad. You're going to be a little bit tired, but we'll see you for the 8-end tiebreaker. Didn't even play him. He lost the game beforehand, so we didn't even play him in the tiebreaker.
Oh, man.
But yeah, from that point, we just kind of I laid down the law and then started getting called the sheriff.
I figured
Benny was calling me Sherry all game today, so I don't know if he was tripping me or what was up with that. But I was hearing Sherry a lot today out of Benny's mouth.
I think I did hear that a couple times on the broadcast.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Imagine that, eh?
Yeah. I figured it was something like maybe I'll make up my own story where you're like a goody two shoes in grade school and like you're the hall monitor and you wouldn't put up with anything, like no running in the hall or anything. It's like the sheriff's in the hall today.
No, and I think it was one of those things where I don't have that kind of assertive attitude where I like laying the law down and saying my way or the highway. Like I'm pretty go with the flow, is what it is kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like with that scenario,
yeah.
And I just said no, we're not doing this. I laid down the law for the first time, and
I like it.
And I guess people took notice, and here I am, the Sherry.
I like
It's a
it.
good nickname to have.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
a lot worse ones out there, that's for sure.
I like
Yeah,
it.
well, it's got Aaron Rodgers has that too.
Yeah, I
Does
think
it?
that's
I don't
because
know.
of his
I'm not a Packer
discount
fan, so
double
I-
check thing
yeah.
or something.
No, that's the
Yeah.
belt.
Something along those lines.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
So yeah, I don't think I'll ever be stealing it fully from him, if that is his nickname at all. But
In our world, it's the only one that matters, Donnie.
Yeah.
It's you and
Exactly.
nobody
Yeah,
else
I like-
matters.
yeah.
yeah, that's right.
Nice. Oh man. What is your what's your pregame then? Like, what do you do you have you eaten already? Do you have to eat by a certain time? Do you what do you do?
We just had a bit of lunch.
Yeah.
So what time we got here? 2:00. So about 5:15 is kind of when our team meeting is. So we'll probably head down for a bite around 3:30, 4:00 kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to eat a whole lot during the games. I like to play on a pretty empty stomach.
Oh, okay.
Keeps you
The
hungry
guys
for a
eat
win.
bit. Exactly. Hungry for a win, and then celebrate
Here
a
on that,
little
folks.
burger
Here
and a pint after the game, maybe.
There you go.
There you
Save
go.
up
Are they letting you guys use the hotel bar at least too, and the restaurant? Notice I said bar first.
Yeah. Well, that's the important part for curlers.
You're a curler through and through, Georgie. Goodness, man.
Well, that's what do we have if we don't have the hotel bar with the teammates and usually with the other teams too. But I mean, are you guys able to even be around other teams? Like if you guys were down in the restaurant area, you have to be like separated still from everybody else too.
Yeah, like they got all the booths kind of around, and they just got this big plexiglass type thing in between them too, so you can still yell at the other guys and whatnot. You can kind of banter back and forth, but I'd like sitting together at a table probably wouldn't fly.
Right.
Which, I mean, we play on the same ice together, so riddle me that one, but it just is what it is, and we've done more than our fair share of shooting the shit with the other teams, and on the ice and in the arena. That's kind of the good time for that. We're kind of all in the arena itself. They kind of each have a table, depending on what color stones you're throwing on what sheet it's kind of labeled, and they're not close together, but they're all within talking distance of the other teams and whatnot. So you got a lot of time to shoot the shit then.
Sure.
That's cool.
Well, at least there's that. I mean, that's part of why we love to play the game. I mean, I think people know that is that you get to meet a lot of great people, spend time with each other, even, outside of charity events, things like that, just on tour. The friends you make and the time you get to spend with your opponents and fellow competitors is part of what makes tour so great. So you take that part of it away. And I think it's the same for other sports too. They just, they have more things that make it worth it for them, the profits and things like that. For us, like you said, the wins and losses basically make it so that we can afford to play or not you get your contract, you go out and play. So things like being able to spend time with your buddies and have a pint at the end of the night with your opponents is part of what keeps you going on the road, whether the wins and losses are coming or not.
100%. It's one of those funny things. You look back at the years you've spent on the tour and you don't remember a lot of the wins and the losses and whatnot. It's the stories that happened after the loss or the win and all the camaraderie that comes with that between the team. Like, it's so fun to play a team and just want to beat the crap out of them on the ice and just like, I'm coming for you. And then 20 minutes after the game, win or lose, you're upstairs drinking, laughing with them. You're telling them they were a loser during the game, or you're saying some crap stuff to them during the game, and then your best buddy's off the ice. Like, that's the beauty of the competition, and it's so awesome that we can have that, and nobody takes any of that personally, right? It's just the heat of the competition, the moment, the fun of it all, and when it does get a bit heated, you do nothing but laugh about it with the guys after the fact, and it's such an awesome thing, and it's the greatest part of our sport. Like you said, I mean, none of us are here cashing checks that are gonna put us into retirement at the age of 45, right? So, I mean, if you don't have that part of the game, the fun, the friendships you have, the stories. Yeah, I mean, the stories.
How much time do you have?
Yeah.
Matt, are you saying you never had a throwdown after?
A throwdown?
Yeah.
No,
No, Matt's a lover, not a fighter. I can tell.
He's the sheriff. He'd put him in jail.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, everyone knows not to mess with Sherry now. That's not a fight anybody's gonna win against my little 5'5" broad-shouldered body.
Well, when your deputy behind you is like 6'4" and 240, that doesn't hurt either.
No.
Well, that's the funniest thing, right? So like I use Mosk as my safety net, eh? So I'm out on the ice running my mouth, lucky shot, like screw you got to throw it better. Then they start looking at me, coming at me, and I just look at them and I turn ahead, go down to the other end. Mosk, you're in. Oh, it's nice. Good. I can just run my mouth like this all day, and I'm not gonna get in trouble.
Matt, I know you're,
and it's all in good fun for us all the time too. With that, I mean, we do a lot of trash talking, but it's always because it's your buddies. You know, it's so seldom for any other reason than just to snipe guys and have a good time with it, not because you actually want to, start something. So with regard to the throwdowns, like you're talking about, I don't know that I've seen more than one or two in my entire life in the curling world. It doesn't happen. Guys it's that good a community. First off, you just don't have those bad apples that are trying to start stuff like that. It's one big community. And I think the one thing that people that don't play on tour or at a highly competitive level would be surprised at more than anything, and I know Donnie would agree with this, is that that sense of camaraderie and continuity is the same at every level of the sport. Just because you're playing more competitively doesn't take away that community aspect of it. And I think it almost, as many friends as you have in the sport, whether they play at the club level or up to the competitive level, it's still one big community. And I think it almost brings you closer as friends too, to play at that high level, but understand why we're doing it, again, without the money that you make from it. Like, there's a bond that comes from traveling together, even outside of your team, as we're all in it for the same reasons, the same purpose. And if it wasn't for that bond, I don't know that a lot of us would do it. I know I would have retired a lot sooner than I did if it wasn't for how much I enjoyed the people that you meet through these things. So
100%. And I think that's why a lot of the time you see guys come back out of the retirement. They spend the year or two on the shelf and then they come right back in. I've always kind of told myself that, if I can kind of end my career and have a lifetime of stories that I can share with these people at the age of 50, 55, whenever I retire, and still laugh about all the stories I had about on the tour, regardless of the wins and the losses, the highs and the lows of the game. If I got these stories that I can laugh about for the rest of my life when I retire from this game, then in my opinion, I've had a successful career.
That's a great way of looking at it. Yeah. That's a great way of looking at it.
Well, Joel, if you don't have anything else for him, I'm sure Dunny's got stuff he's got to do between the games here, and we could keep him forever telling stories. And we probably will at some point. But breaking news, as we heard earlier in the stream here, Matt Dunstone confirmed for 2022 House of Hearts.
Yes.
You can put it in stone. It's done.
Put it on the board. Yes.
Also,
writer and pen.
Also, think about the lupus spiel in May. That's a really good time too.
Love it. I'm not going to make up for lost time. We already went over that.
Yeah,
there you go. No, don't do that.
My first time.
All right.
Remember you said that.
Not playing catch up for all the years I've missed prior to that.
Two things. I know you're a hat guy. Do you have any other new good hats? You had that leather one when you won your slam, and that was like the ugliest thing, but it must have had a bunch of good juju because you won. Do you have any other good hats? You have any new good hats?
That was pure leather. That thing still reeks like hell. Well, I got the cowboy hat for the sheriff, obviously.
All right.
Nice. I rock the Miami Marlins hat quite a bit. I'm a big Marlins fan, believe it or not.
All right.
I know there's not a lot of them in the States, but there's even less in Canada.
Well, just
up and coming team.
You got to ride them until they die,
for
man.
real.
Yeah.
Watch out, Sixto's gonna have a year, boys.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you.
So I rock that quite a bit. I funnel through a lot of those.
Okay.
They get a lot of wear and tear, but I got a lot of old kind of curling retro hats. Another hat I have is the MCA Bonspiel that they run in Manitoba there, the Master Spiel.
Yeah.
So I got the 125th anniversary hat, and it's like this corduroy snapback. It's got like the piece of rope along.
Yes.
That's when you know.
Nice.
That's when you know a hat's like 50 years old.
That's
when
right.
it's got the rope
on.
across
Nice. Yeah.
the
I
top
like
of
a
the
good
brim
hat.
there.
I like it.
Only played in the MCA one time. We made the quarters though.
Nice.
We got knocked up by Night Train Bomer.
Oh, Bohm, Daddy, he's got it. He's just ripping through the seniors in Manitoba right now.
I don't doubt it. The dude can still
Yeah.
play. He was on
The
fire.
the night train's still rolling. But yeah, other than that, I stick to
Sweet.
my Marlins hat
I like
pretty
it.
good. I gotta support the boys.
I like it.
Mhm.
All right. You're welcome to stay as long as you want, but while you're here, do you want to? We let our guests thank any sponsors they have. You want to thank anybody?
Sure, yeah. I'll
He's a
just
pro.
pull up
He's
the
got
list
it ready.
here.
You've got a pro.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna
We're,
do your best NASCAR. Yeah, I'd like to thank the the Jiffy Lube the Jiffy Lube Dodge here. We had it was a really good today. Yeah. What do you got?
Yeah, you know what? We're so lucky up here. Obviously, especially where we are too in Saskatchewan. I mean, George, you know, is like the fans in Saskatchewan are bar none, in my opinion, the best in the world.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. Every event we ever played in Saskatchewan, they pack the place and they're respectful. They know the game.
Yeah.
Anytime they had a slam in Saskatchewan,
That's
we
why
were
I
ready
want to
go.
go to a Brier in Saskatchewan. Like I think
Oh,
Regina.
I
I might not come
that
back,
was
but it would
my-
be a good way to go.
that was my first one.
Yeah.
Hometown Brier, Rear Team Sask in Regina. First Brier patch experience, and oh my God. Well, we got stories for another time when it
All
comes
right.
to
Yeah.
that one. But
Absolutely.
you know, like,
We could go forever.
yeah, you know, we're so lucky to play in Saskatchewan, and curling's so big there. So we have so many great corporate sponsors that make the dream work for us. Totally wouldn't be able to do it without them. And so I just want to give a shout out to Core Grain Systems, Gallon Insurance and Mortgage Brokers, Atlas Apex Roofing, Dynasty Curling, Quarks and Urban Trail, Agromax, Apex Plumbing and Heating, Sask Canola, Caledon Equipment Leasing, Vaderstad, North Star Industries, Inlet Properties, Pleasant Valley Farms, Hardline Curling, and Nichols Industries.
Dang.
You just
Holy
listed
cow.
off more sponsors than USA Curling has as a whole for the organization.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also true.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're playing in the heart of curling in the world. So I mean,
That's
so
right.
lucky. I mean, the company, like the whole province is around. We feel so much love during the Brier. You know, it's so cool. It's so cool being Curl Sask, and you know, obviously me being a Manitoba boy and living in BC now, we got so many different provinces cheering for us too. And there's no shortage of love felt. And I mean, with that, you hear it a little bit when you don't win games, and you know, rightfully so. I mean, we're here to win it, and I mean, we love our fans and how passionate they are, and we want to celebrate the wins with them.
Sure.
Well,
You-
Matty, on a personal level too, that I think it's important, you know, to get things like this out for you too, because you know, there's a lot of good guys in the curling world, and you talked about having a lot of fans, a lot of people pulling for you guys from different provinces. You know, there's a reason for that too. You know, when you're a good guy, and you know, you obviously from the time we had here, you guys can see he's a very personable guy, good interview too. You know, people pull for you for a reason, and we'll be pulling for you this week. And yeah, just the best of luck the rest of the way, and keep being a good ambassador for the sport the way you have. We appreciate that too.
Yeah, absolutely appreciate it, boys. And
But-
we'll have to come back on for maybe a little after hours action, get a little story time going.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Well,
Anytime.
for a little
You're
bit.
welcome anytime,
Yeah,
Sherry.
you're
Donnie,
welcome
you got to
back.
text me who that was that gave you that nickname. Then, too.
Yeah, I'll let you know. Love it, fellas.
Very good.
Back them down,
See you,
Matt.
Thanks
Good
a lot,
luck.
Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Kick
It's
one
like
out,
tag
bring
team
another
action.
one in.
Chelsea
Yeah.
jumps right in.
Perfect timing.
Good timing, Chelsea.
Perfect timing.
That's right.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, we're super.
Oh, you know, we're doing
You
what we
recognize
do.
those shirts, obviously, Chelsea.
I recognize the tiger shirts. Absolutely. Never mistake those.
I
It's
did.
always embarrassing to be on the ice with them when they have them on. Like, really? Here I'm dressed all in black, and they're all in like tiger uniform. It's like
It's
yeah.
USA Curling's answer to the pants.
That's
right.
pretty much it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's either this
the
or
best
the
is-
track suits.
Yeah. The track suits are pretty amazing as well.
Speaking of which, we should probably give people a coupon code. Sweatcedo.com for 10% off your order. Use the coupon code CurlingNation10. You can get a very nice,
Sweet looking tracksuit.
sweet looking track suit like these here that we're playing with somebody there, Russ Howard. So They're comfortable. They're good to curl with. They don't shed. You wash them once, they're good. They don't shed. So
They don't. I need Sweatcito to come out with those sweet sweatsuits that are going around on the internet right now. The old nylon ones. Ty, you've seen that? You saw that picture, right? With Wayne and Glenn.
Yeah,
Wilson in
that's
their
I
Peter
thought so
corner.
too.
That's such a great
yeah,
picture.
I saw that this morning for
Yeah.
the first time, and that's I didn't even realize that was Glenn for like the first 5 minutes. I was like looking at it, sending it around, like, oh my god! And that is Peter Corner in the red too, right?
Yes,
That's the
it
whole
is.
squad.
Yeah, that was their team. That was like that was done
Yeah.
in like the jackets actually looks
The
like that.
legend.
Like at Worlds and stuff then,
Yeah.
because that was like they won in '93. My dad won in '92, and that like their Canada jackets had that double stripe, like the windbreaker that Wayne is wearing in the one picture. If you reverse the white and the black, is what they wore to Worlds.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
actually,
Yeah. Well, it. I don't know if Joel could get it up on the screen
Yeah.
to show people.
We're working
but
on it.
my
yeah,
God, it's
give me a
it,
second
it
here. I'll
looks
get it
like
up.
it's straight out of a Sears catalog too. Like they're hamming it
oh, the
up.
pictures
It
are
is.
amazing. Like the way
Oh,
they're
man.
posed and everything. It's
Oh,
awesome.
God.
I laughed so hard at that today. I was like, I owned all this stuff. I remember this. Like I wore this.
Yeah.
The angled.
The only House of Hearts
Hairbrush.
I ever won was with Peter Corner. I played lead for him before I did anything in the sport.
Or
I
you
played
were a
as
celebrity
lead,
skip.
played with Corner. He made everything in a spiel where you're not supposed to do that, and still bought drinks, partied with everybody the entire weekend. Could not miss. The guy was absolutely out of his mind. I don't think we had a close game, but it was mainly just because Peter made everything. It was incredible.
You could still argue, and I still would argue that that's the best team ever. Like
It's
that
hard
lineup.
to argue.
I mean,
hard
Kevin
to
Martin with Ben and Mark and John. I think that's the only other team that even comes close as far
You
as
could
argue
make a
that's-
case, yeah, and you can make a case for Neto and Furby too. But
You
I
could,
mean,
yeah, you could.
outside of those three, you could make a case for any of them, and people would listen. Like, but
Yeah.
outside of that, if you try to put anybody else in that category, that's going to be awfully tough.
I think the case that I would make for that Howard team is that 3 of them have won the Brier as a skip, and all 4 of them have gone to the Brier.
Yeah.
As a skip. Like that
Exactly.
will never be done again to put
Yeah.
a team together like that. That's wild.
No, that's insane. And it's hard to compare the older teams, you know, like
Well,
Ernie
yeah, you
Rich
can't. The game was
quads
just
from
so
the
different,
60s,
right?
but-
Like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean he's the king for a reason, but I mean when you when you try to compare the eras, like all you can do is how dominant they were compared to their
At
competition.
the time, yeah, exactly. And if you looked at, they didn't track it then, but if you looked at, like they called it the Gold Trail, if you looked at the Cashspiel circuit, that
Mhm.
Howard team was wildly dominant. Like as
But didn't they
dominant
win like
as-
20 cars or something like that?
Yeah, well, and their total record overall was like something like 38-1 or 38-2 or something over like a 2-season situation because people didn't play as much then. But that team was wild. Like they just were so dominant. They won everything.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, there it is.
That's so good.
Oh my god.
I need
those
that.
things are
I need
incredible.
that Wayne Madala suit from the top one. I like the maroon.
Yeah, there we go. Zoom in on that
yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
God,
know
look at Glenn. Oh,
Yeah,
that's something.
I know.
Peter's not in the first one, but he's in the
Glenn's
other
got to
one.
bring
Yeah.
the stash back. That would be
Mhm.
just
Do
great.
you know who
for like
the-
one spiel.
The woman
No,
is
I was
in?
trying to figure out who that lady is. I don't know. I couldn't tell.
I mean, the like
He's
that
probably the
It's like the-
design.
that
It's like
one
the fifth Beatle.
that one
We don't
almost
know.
looks like Heather Smith in the bottom, but I
did. I
that's
think I
not-
might know her because I assumed she would be a curler, but I
But-
zoomed in on it
yeah,
and
but
stuff,
the-
and I was like, I mean,
The
if
top,
I know her,
the
I
top
can't
doesn't
identify
look
it.
like Heather Smith.
Well, I
but the
assume
bottom looks
that,
like Heather Smith.
Russ, Glenn, and Wayne have been aware that this is circulating right now
Oh,
too.
Oh, I would think, yeah.
well,
They
They
have-
have to. Otherwise, we need to get it out
Yeah.
there.
the
Right away.
Madonna, the
I mean,
Madonna
we
team
still
knows
can.
about it. Yes.
Dunny just texted me who called him the sheriff.
Yeah.
Now, and I absolutely can't say it on this. Oh my god, that's funny.
Nice. But Joel,
That's why he
scroll
couldn't
back
say it
up-
on the
Don't,
air.
but you'll have to
Yeah.
tell us.
Joel, scroll back up to that hat. Look at that hat. That's an old school like country club with the patch, high brim or high lid.
They didn't make them
That
any
is an
other way
old
back
school
then.
hat. That's cool.
I mean, I think everything in
Yeah.
that picture is pretty old school.
And is Wayne like 12 years old in
even
this?
her
or
hairdo
what?
is like that era
I bet,
as well,
I
right?
bet Wayne's
yeah.
like 18.
That's like the most 80s hairdo
16.
you could come out, or early 90s
Yeah.
hairdo you could
Yeah.
come up with.
And the perfect mustache as well. Is
Oh yeah, Glen Rock and the
Mhm.
Muzzy is also a point of interest there.
The fixed head
Oh,
hairbrush.
God, that's incredible. I could
Yeah.
just stare into that all day.
Yeah, it does. It looks like a circa 1970s Sears and Roebuck catalog.
Or like a Fabricland, like if you were buying
Oh.
patterns to make these jumpsuits yourself,
Right.
that's
Yes.
what it would look
Mhm.
like. That's what it reminds me of. My mom always sewed, and so we would go to Fabricland or whatever and like sift through and then on the front of it would be a picture of like the thing that you're going to sew together, and that's what it looks like.
Absolutely.
It's incredible. Tell us, we talked to Donnie about life in the bubble and what it was like. It seems like they're easing up on the restrictions a little bit, like as time is going on, just maybe feeling a little safer about the way players are handling themselves. But give us a little taste of what that week was like, just with all the procedures you had to go through.
Yeah, it was. So when we went in, we knew about most of it. We knew about the you had to go through, like you get a day, like a 3-day before test, 72 hours before. You get a day 0 test and then 2 more tests once you're in. Once all of that comes back negative, then in theory, we were supposed to be allowed to congregate with our teams, but they took that away on the day that we got the 4th test or the 3rd in the bubble test. So then they were like, no, just kidding. You can't, like, you can have your pre and post game meetings, but you can't have meals together. You can't watch the game together. You can't just like hang out with your teammates. So to me, that was the biggest part that was different. Like, I'm an eat, sleep, girl kind of person at an event like that. I'm not like, I don't want to go, I like to nap between games and stuff. Like, I'm not looking to go sightseeing and shopping, and it's just not my thing when I'm trying to compete. So for me, it wasn't that bad. The frustrating part was not being able to, like, socially, it sucked because you're seeing these people that you haven't seen in a year and you want to chat with them and like catch up with them and stuff, and you're not allowed to. And you can't even hang out with your own teammates and feel like you have the social aspect of it, even just with your own team. So that sucked. And then the other thing that is super frustrating is like, you look out the window of your hotel room and you can see Subway and Starbucks and like all this stuff, and you can't just walk there. So now I'm paying $5 for delivery and it's taking half an hour to get there when I could literally throw a rock and hit the Starbucks. So that part was weird, and just going for walks and stuff. Like normally we would have probably walked to and from the arena a bit if we were allowed to, because it's close, and just to move around, and especially because we're kind of locked in the room, just to get some fresh air. And you could walk in the parking lot, but you couldn't leave there. And so those were, other than that, honestly, once it started, I didn't find it that strange, other than the no shaking hands thing. I hate it. That was
That's tough.
Awkward. And just like you wave at each other and good game. And I really didn't like that part very much. But once the game started and you were playing, because we didn't have masks on and stuff, it actually felt like normal life. For like, you got the 2-hour, 2.5, 3-hour normal life feeling until after the game, and you had to do the awkward wave again.
Got it.
Let's see, was there any teams affected by positive tests?
No, the only 2 incidents I heard about, neither of them were positive tests, but Carey Enerson had an inconclusive test, which didn't change anything other than she had to get tested like 3 times within a day and a half. And then the whole thing with Joanne Rizzo having food poisoning, where they delayed, like they've delayed that game, they postponed that game until the Monday. And she was playing against Carey, actually, as it turns out. But other than that, no, there was no positive tests. And like the whole thing went off. I mean, it didn't go off without a hitch. There was a bunch of hiccups early on. They changed practice times, and it was a bit of a gong show early. But the actual event itself, once we started the games, went off basically without a hitch, which was pretty incredible considering that, we didn't know what was going to happen or how that was going to go.
For sure. Are you going to be in any of the slams? So are you going back in? Are you playing with...
I'm going back in. So Tracy is going to come and play in the first slam.
Okay.
And I'll play in the second one with them, but you can't enter the bubble partway through. So I will be in the bubble for the whole time. I'll be there 5th at the first one, and then just stay and play the second one. We haven't formally announced that yet, but that's what's happening.
Sorry.
Yeah, well.
No, it's okay.
11
Breaking
people.
news. There you go.
We have breaking
Probably
news.
11
yeah.
people know now. 11.
Yep.
Yeah, 12. Oh, we just got another one. They might have come in late. So, yeah, nice. What else? I was going to ask you something else. Oh, what did you think of the jerseys? I thought they were awesome.
I loved
great.
them.
Yeah.
Like, love. I thought they looked so awesome. I've heard mixed reviews, but I thought they were great.
Wow.
Yeah,
I thought they looked
more
great.
more positive than negative, but I've heard
Yeah.
a couple people say that they were like the people that hate them really hate them.
Yeah.
Like they were a disaster. I'm like, they weren't a disaster. They were awesome. Like if you Google Heather Houston,
Yeah.
and her Team Canada sweaters, that's what they were based on, and
Oh,
like
yeah.
that's what they looked like. I thought
Yeah.
they were great.
I thought they looked great too. My only,
Yeah, there are some haters on the Facebook chat and stuff, and some people just hating just to hate on something, I guess.
Well, right, and like whatever they did was going to be hated by somebody, but I liked the retro thing. I thought they looked really good.
I thought they looked good.
That's just the internet as a whole. Is you're going to find people
Yeah.
that like or don't like
Yeah.
something just to do it, no matter what.
Yeah.
The general reaction to the jerseys was very positive,
Yeah.
and especially from the players. The players loved them, and with the players, as long as they look halfway decent, they're fine. It's all about the functionality.
Yeah.
So
Right. And we know what we're getting with that. Dynasty's done the jerseys for Worlds and Scotties for a couple years now, so we know what we're getting functionality wise and fit wise and stuff, which is helpful.
yeah.
But we liked, as players, I think generally people liked the aesthetic of them. There was some pushback on the beige for home and for Ontario, which I don't necessarily disagree with. They didn't really look like Ontario jerseys, but beyond that, everybody had good things to say as far as what I heard.
Got it.
So the Ontario colors would be black and
Black and white. I
Black
think
and
that-
red,
white or
typically.
red.
And they were like
Red?
black and oatmeal, weren't they? Kind of an
They were, yeah, they were
tannish.
like the majority of them was this oatmeal-y beigey color, which just didn't like. It's not that it looked bad necessarily. It just I didn't associate it with Ontario when I looked at it. Like it's just the wrong color scheme, but it's what they used to
Yeah,
wear.
but they're
Like
from
they
Alberta.
based it on the
so-
colors that year of that Scotties with Heather Houston, like the first Scotties, but.
Yeah.
It just, there was something not Ontario about it to the rest of us. But other
Maybe-
than that, I
maybe
thought
it was
that they were a success.
Maybe it was a subtle dig because 3 of them live in Alberta.
Well, yeah, I mean, that could be the case, I suppose.
I don't.
But some
I
of those
don't think
some of those
Haji's that
earlier trends
spiteful.
with the big splash and the really wild colors, and that was getting kind of out of hand. So bringing it back to retro was kind of a cool statement.
I thought they killed it. I really liked the sweater look. I liked the double band around the arms and stuff. Like the whole retro feel of them to me was great.
Yeah. You live in Calgary in general, right?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. What color are you in right now? Or have they abandoned the colors or like
Sorry?
with the COVID they've had like I've heard they've been in the gray
The
zone and
stages
the red
of
zone
like
or
opening
the-
stuff.
Yeah.
We didn't. Alberta hasn't used colors so much as they use like stage 1 and stage 2 and stage
Okay.
3 of reopening.
All right.
We've always been, so what we never lost here is retail
Okay.
ever. Like that never shut down at any point. You could always go to malls and stuff, and so that is unique in Canada for the most part. Everybody else shut that down at some point, and Alberta did not do that. We've generally been, just because of our government is much more on the conservative, on the right wing side of things. They've been
Okay.
trying to preserve businesses a lot more than some of the other provinces, to our detriment in some cases, but like that's been their
Fair.
kind of general approach. So we now have like restaurants are open at limited capacities with distancing and all that stuff, but I think it's 25% capacity.
Okay.
Gyms are reopened, but not for high intensity workouts.
Okay.
So you can go and like lift weights or whatever, but you can't do like a HIIT class or something where you're breathing heavily.
Okay.
That's new. That's only in the last like couple weeks, I think that's happened.
All right.
Yeah, it's generally, we're not in the full lockdown state. That we just came out of it though. Like all the curling clubs and everything were closed until a week before the Scotties.
Got it.
So I had access to ice for a week before we went there,
Oh, that
but
sounds
that's
fun.
more than my teammates in Manitoba had. And they also have now gone home to a 14-day quarantine after the Scotties. Like they can't, like full lockdown, can't leave their house for 14 days.
Wow.
And we don't have that here. So like, I feel bad because I'm going to the gym and I'm going out for dinner and like I'm allowed to do that. And they're at home in like this complete lockdown where they can't leave their houses or interact with any humans.
Interesting.
So yeah, Alberta is a bit more lax right now than the rest of the country, but because we had been more lax the whole time, it actually caught up to us in a way where they did have to shut almost everything down for almost 2 months, just before, from like the middle of December until basically
before
early
Scotties.
February.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Dang.
it bit us in the butt a little bit, but we now are back after that lockdown, are back to numbers where and again, they're always going to open things sooner just because it's a right-wing government and they want to not kill the economy,
Got it.
which, I mean, you could argue whether that's right or wrong, but that's the reality in Alberta right now.
Yeah. We all make our
Chelsea, was
decisions.
was the ice time thing, the pre-ice before the Scotties, was that pretty consistent through all the territories, or was there some territory?
No, Manitoba had none the whole time. Ontario had none the whole time. Or sorry, I shouldn't say that. Parts of Ontario, like the GTA area, had none the whole time, and even parts of Northern Ontario. So it depended. It was it's because all the provinces make their own rules. So nobody's got, there's no consistency across the country. Like BC's had ice most of the time in most of their clubs, and the Atlantic provinces have had ice basically the whole time because they had their own bubble. So Atlantic Canada was in a bubble. So their numbers never got as bad as the rest of the country. So they didn't have to shut stuff down, but they also couldn't leave the bubble and travel, and no one could enter it either. So, you know, pluses and minuses, I guess, on both sides. But no, there was lots of people that came in having not had clubs open in their region or territory or province at all until the Scotties started. And then a bunch of them were loosening restrictions. Like Manitoba, for example, did open clubs, but they opened them the day that the girls had to leave to come to the bubble. So it couldn't have worked out any worse.
That's helpful.
We got breaking news in the Brier as well here too. It looks like somebody's finally going to score in the.
Yeah. Big moment. Big
If
moment.
he blanks this one,
I
that's
don't
going to be pretty
know.
amazing.
He could play the run quad,
Yeah.
but he's got the
Or are
bridge
you
down
guys
for the
behind
road.
me? Like the end
Oh
is
yeah,
over.
Yeah, all we can do is stream, so it's always
we're
behind
on-
you.
watching on-
Ours
on
has to go
line.
all the way up to outer space and then back down. So
Yeah.
we'll catch up eventually.
Well, I won't say anything then.
Which
Gunner
GS?
has been
Yeah.
quite the team to watch this week, just because you know, as Chelsea knows from watching him over the years too. If he could hit anything in the past,
absolutely.
if he could see an inch of a rock, he was hitting, and it was always going to be low-scoring games. You just want to throw a high, hard one.
Did he get his
You got-
dues? You guys
Looks
won?
like one.
But now he's opened up his offensive game a little bit.
Well,
Did he touch the guard and still get by there?
No, I think he
That
missed
looked
the
like
guard,
he caught
but
the
I
back
missed
of the
the-
guard almost.
He missed the guard, but I don't know if he pushed it back far
don't know
enough.
if he pushed it far enough.
But we saw in last night's game, Gunner was throwing double centers up by 4.
I know.
Gunner loves double center. So that's the stats part. Like we worked with him for a year because he does the stats he does like stats advisory through Curling Zone for teams, only for women's teams, obviously, because he wouldn't do it with his own competitors.
Yep.
So we worked with him for a year on stats, and he basically and I was totally on board, but my teammates at that time were very defensive minded. So try to get them on board with throwing double centers when you're up. But honestly, I love double centers. I love double centers all the time. Like but not lined up double centers. You throw the tight one, they throw the corner, you cross it on the side where it takes away the path around the corner, you're laughing. Like it is such a great play, and I think it's underused still. It's getting more mainstream, but I still think not enough teams are doing it.
Well, I think even just to simplify it too with that strategy, the more you think about it, if you have one team that's trying to go under a corner guard and one team that's trying to go under center guards, especially if there's two of them, you have to play to that stone in the middle at some point because it's the scoring point, period.
Exactly.
You can't score going under the center if you can't, or under the corner if you can't
If
get
you
to
can't
what's
access the rocks at the center.
And you're eliminating the opportunity for the team to bail out of the end with one shot if there's only one center guard. Then they
When
can
you
just make that run.
You sort of force them to play around your center if you do it properly. So
You're
now
forcing
you've
them to
done
play
exactly
together.
what you're wanting to do and draw the play to the middle, and they throw a corner guard that now they never get to use.
I think the
there's some,
team that's used that surprised people, I think, this week during the Brier, if you're watching, is Fournier out of Quebec.
Yeah.
Every single end you watch, there's a million rocks piled up around the center line of the 4-foot, and it's worked for them a good chunk of the time, and it's hurt them too. But they're kind of living and dying by it. You know, they're saying we're going to take you to the 4-foot. You're going to have to play in the center of the sheet.
The thing I think people are stuck on is that double centers in 4-rock rule was like a hard steal situation. Like you're down a couple without the hammer, you have to steal at least a point. Now it's not even a steal, it's a force. All you're trying to do is force. But the only way to force in 5-rock rule is to throw double centers. Like if you don't draw the play to the middle, you're not forcing. If you let them use their corner guards, because they get 2 of them now with 5-rock rule, which is the biggest difference to me, is in 4-rock rule, you like if you had the hammer, you only got 1 guard because they can peel the second guard that you throw, and then you only end up with 1. 5-rock rule, you get 2 corners. Therefore, you have to play offense to play defense. The only way to force is to basically try to steal, and then if they make a shot for 1, good for them.
Yeah, and I think another thing that's bringing about too with late in games is that most teams are deciding, as the percentages spoke to in the past, even with 4 Rock. I think it's more so now with 5, even though I haven't seen the numbers like for this week or anything. But teams wanting to be 1 up instead of 1 down.
Yeah, because you play a force. You play a hard force, and if you steal, great. And if not, you go to the extra end with the hammer.
Well,
you
like last night's Jacobs game was a prime example where they got into the 4-foot first. They had the centers up, and they were protecting the entire end. And it came down to Brendan having to make an angle run with his first shot, and that's really low percentage to have to try to play that to win the game, basically. And you'd rather be Brad in that situation. But that seems to be Chelsea, and I haven't been playing. You've seen a lot more of these situations, but it seems to be that the team that's ahead in those situations late in the game is way more apt to play aggressively, or to maybe force, but even steal straight out by playing those 2 center guards.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. The interesting thing to me is that was always the case for women's curling, where you'd rather be 1 up statistically, even with 4 Rock, but it wasn't with men's. Right. So it was different for the men and the women, but now it's become the same. And I do think that the way I talked about this with Cheryl Bernard before we went to the Scotties, and I said that to me, the difference in 5 Rock rule, what has switched is you're less aggressive with the hammer and more aggressive without it, because you have to be. Because the only way to not give them a 3 is to be aggressive in the middle and throw some guards and get some rocks in play, because they get 2 corner guards you can't peel. So, and then even if they don't throw a second corner, they can go around the one they have, and you can't touch either of those rocks if it's buried. So now you're in trouble. So you have to be, it's like very uncomfortable for people, especially for women, but you have to be aggressive without the hammer. You have to.
Yeah. And that's the math that people, if you really think about it with 5 Rock rule, is it's really 6. Because you can't peel on that 5th shot, and the team that's trying to attack certainly isn't going to do it on the 6th. So by the time you throw a peel, it's the 7th shot of the end. Right. So if you're not playing offense, if you're not throwing these 2 centers, I mean, and it's not even offense as much as it's just giving yourself a chance to defend by taking the center away from them and making them play to it instead of the corners.
But it's made it true for curling that the best defense is a good offense.
Yep, absolutely.
It's the only way to defend. And it's so everybody wants to go and throw peels and throw open side and like draw to the 4-foot and whatever, but that doesn't work anymore in 5 Rock. You can't defend that way. The only way to defend is with offense, which has been, I think, a big shift for a lot of people to get, especially women, to get into the idea that like it's uncomfortable when you're a couple points up to throw 2 guards. Like that feels wild. That feels like we should be 3 down without before we do that. But it's the only way you can defend in 5 Rock rule.
Yeah, you see so many fewer peels in the past.
Oh, yeah.
In the past, because you just can't. You're chasing the whole end, and you're basically giving an opportunity for 3 right from the time you throw that first peel.
Right, and usually by the time you can peel, it's too late to. So you just stack the middle instead and say make a run double, because otherwise we're stealing 1 on you.
Yeah, and it's good for the sport because it's great for
the sport. 100%.
You could map out with 4 Rock if there was a situation where late in the game a team was up by 2 without the hammer. You could map the whole end out from the start.
100%.
Exactly how it was going to go.
And everyone knows exactly. Like if you don't get a flash peel in 4 Rock rule, you're done. You're dead. Yeah. You're not getting 3. You need a flash peel or flash hit. Period.
Yeah. Now there's no
5 Rock rule. 3 is always in play. Like so, you have to go aggressive to the middle, or else they go around the corner guard.
But now aren't they playing a lot of?
They go around it again. Now
aren't there a lot of tick shots now where they're playing the
way
tick
more
shot
ticks for sure.
And
for that reason, well, and that's one way to defend if you have the hammer, because these people are throwing double centers, so play the tick. So we used to do it on my old team all the time, where we'd go top, or they'd throw guard or go top 4-foot or whatever, and we'd throw a corner, and then whether they went guard or in and then guard, or if they went 2 guards, on the second one we'd play a tick and try to roll behind our corner, because you need to move those rocks on the center line, but you also need to set up your 2. So it became really important, especially for the team with the hammer, to make ticks. You have to make ticks, because otherwise they're doing exactly what Tyler and I just said. They're throwing double centers on you and they're going around. And now, unless you make the perfect run, which if they line them up, you can't do, you're in trouble. You're just in trouble the whole end.
Yeah, that tick to roll underneath the corner guard is such a valuable shot, because the thing that's going to hurt you in the end, obviously, is not being able to get to the center. Your opponent isn't concerned about your corners because they can always come in and you have to chase them at some point. But if you can make that tick, now not only do you have the center open, you have one underneath the corner, and you probably have another corner on the other side too.
Exactly,
You're in
'cause you ticked
complete.
it and
You've
rolled.
made 3 shots in one shot.
Well, and even
And-
if you don't make it perfect, even if you don't roll
Yeah.
buried, that's okay. Because if you tempt them into hitting it, now they only have one center guard, and it's the long one, which isn't very useful to
Yeah.
them.
So they're probably now, and I think I've seen this from even these couple tournaments too, is teams are throwing the high center first, so that you can't
because
really
the tick
do
is
that.
harder and you can't roll in. We used to do that
Right.
all the time because
Yeah.
if you throw the tight one, then they're playing that. They're playing, it's the Rachel Holman thing. It was Lisa
Yeah.
Weigel who started it. And they
Yeah,
started
tick them in the
blowout
ring,
roll.
roll under the corner
You're
on the
roll
top.
under, you're dead. So throw the long one first and then try to stack them so that hopefully they
Right.
don't make the tick on the tight one.
Yep.
Because it's way, like, at least they can't put a rock in the house with the long guard tick. They could still make the tick, but they don't roll underneath the corner guard.
Right.
This
We
has been-
could go on like this back and forth for the next 3 hours.
Yeah. If you're ever worried about
I'm okay with
generate
that, like,
content with Tyler
I
and
don't
I
get
on
to
the
talk
call.
curling strategy.
Yeah.
anymore.
I was
Whatever.
told there would be no math.
No, it's,
Yeah.
So,
So
if
being-
we could
being a
stop at the
novice-
statistics, that would be great.
no, but being a novice, I mean, it totally makes sense, but it takes you two people to kind of spell it out.
The problem is we just had a conversation, Garrett, where you say your corners were never good, and now they're saying
I
corners
know.
are never good, and I don't like this conversation because now you're not going to throw
the
out
real-
corners.
Yeah, the real quick way to explain what we're talking about is just if you have to think about what you're trying to accomplish and what your opponent's trying to accomplish. So if you throw a shot and you think it's helping your end goal for the end, then that's probably a good thing. And if it's not, it's not. So with the centers and the corners, again, the curling 101 is teams without the hammer want to force the game to the center because that's where the steal opportunities are, or the force opportunities, and the teams with the hammer want to take the game to the edges, not just because they're not trying to force, but because no matter what, they still want that out at the end where they can play to the center and still get a point if things don't go right. So now the strategy in trying to accomplish these things is changing because of Five Rock, obviously, and but the goal is the same. What you're trying to accomplish has never changed. It's just preventing it or trying to get to it is such a different process than it's
Well,
been
I
in the
think what
past.
you guys
It was really simple before. Now
yeah.
it's a little bit more complicated.
Well, yeah, I think
Right, and
that's
the
what you talked
evolution.
about is that it used to be just when you're 2 up, it was everybody knew it was going to happen, and it might as well just have been you might as well not have even played the end unless you got a flash. But
Yeah, it's
But
execution.
now there's
That's it. I
more-
mean, you
I mean,
know what's
yeah.
going to happen.
yeah, now there's at least something to it.
Right, but now it's the because I asked right when the 5 stone rule came out, I asked how are we playing this game now, and I would ask like high level curlers, they really didn't have an answer for it yet, and I think it's just taken some time to play the game. Does that sound about right? To get
I
That was
That's-
that was the fun thing about the slams the first year was when
Yeah.
we weren't doing it in any other tournaments. The slams were doing Five Rock just to experiment with it, and teams were constantly trying to figure out what worked best, and nobody knew. Like we were all doing different things, and there wasn't a right or wrong. But that was the fun part of playing like later in games, especially is you'd throw your first shot and be like, okay, what are they going to do? Like you didn't know the second shot at the end. You didn't know what they're going to throw.
Well,
Which
and
was
people were still
really
experimenting
interesting
with,
for a game that's so repetitive all the time too. We got some new looks at things.
in 4 rock rule, you'd be throwing rocks through the house, and in 5 rock rule, instead you're stacking 3 rocks in the middle. Like
Yeah,
it's
right.
just it's so diametrically opposed when you watch it happen that way. But it's how to combat
to
it. And the
defend.
interesting thing to me was that I always felt like the 4 rock rule gave the advantage to the team that didn't have the hammer because they got 2 guards over the team that did have the hammer because they got only 1 guard. And I think 5 rock rule evened that back out. But that's why I think that with the hammer, you play more defensive because you're, to Tyler's point, like you're trying to set up your 2, but you're also trying to make sure you have a shot for 1 all the time. And if they go aggressive like they probably should, in theory, then they're throwing 2 centers. So now the tick becomes more important. Like a hit and roll, instead of peeling a guard, you might hit it and roll to a corner. Like you're trying to move those center rocks, but also not go totally defensive and just peel everything out. It's just changed the approach to trying to accomplish the same thing. Because I agree with that. I mean, it's curling 101 still applies. When you have the hammer, you want the middle open. When you don't have the hammer, you want the middle as shut down as you possibly can. But
I
the way we
think
get there is so different now.
I think something that's going to be really difficult with this now too, moving forward, is coaching younger players with this, because you still want the general focus of the end goal of the end to be the same, like we talked about. You know, have the middle open, going to the edges, whatever. But telling a young team, we don't want to get too aggressive without the hammer because that's where we get hurt. But I want you to throw 2 center guards.
Yeah.
is going to be a difficult conversation. Like, okay, but you just said this. Yeah, that's exactly what I said. But I want you to do this while you're doing this. And
it's just hard for anyone to understand what a shot Gunnar just made. You guys are about to see it.
Well, based on where the rocks are, we could probably figure out
what I think is hard is that what was an offensive play is now a defensive play. Like throwing 2 center guards isn't an offensive. I mean, it can be, but it can be used for defense as well. And I think that that's the part that I know I struggled with, and I know especially my defensive-minded former teammates really just couldn't get their head around that. Like, we don't need to steal more. We're not trying to steal, though. We're trying to force. Like, you need to stop thinking of that as a steal play and start thinking of it as a force play. It's both, and you might end up stealing.
Yeah.
But it's the only way you can force. There is no force play besides getting aggressive in the middle. Like, that's the only way that you're going to get away with it, because they have a free corner guard that they can come around and you can't hit either rock. Like, there's no other way to force them to one, because they're sitting second shot buried around the corner no matter what you do. So you might as well pile the middle up with rocks that they can't hit.
Yeah. Is there ever a time
Gunnar throwing the heater?
There's triple. For
And
sure.
3.
Yeah.
Classic Gunnar. There he is.
Is there ever a time where steal is bad? Do you think?
Yes.
I suppose
so like say if you're
go ahead.
Say if you're if you're coming home, like we've done it before, where coming home, if we score like tied playing 9, you could argue that
you don't want to steal one there.
You want to be one up, but we're say one up with coming home, one up with playing 9. Sorry. So I'd rather give them a steal than score 1 there, because their chances of getting 3 statistically are better than them stealing without the hammer.
And that's something that changed with 5 rock too.
Right, that's totally
teams will intentionally give up that steal or to tie it up, as opposed to taking a point.
We saw Jacobs do it. They blanked. They were 2 down.
Yeah.
And blanked on purpose, and the commentators went, "This makes no sense. Like, we're surprised by this." I'm like, I'm not surprised by that.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to get 2. If they're tied up coming home without, they're losing.
Yeah.
If they're 2 down coming home, they could win.
Yeah.
And they're going, and in theory, they're probably getting 2, and worst case, they're going to an extra end, which is the same situation.
Mm-hmm.
So try to get
probably looking at 2 center guards too.
Exactly, yeah. But that is a case where you wouldn't want to steal. Like, there's been a few situations where we've stolen to go 2 up, and I'm like, I wish they would have scored. So coming home, because then I would rather have the hammer tied than be 2 up without.
Sure.
So now our team's gonna Kevin Martin's podcast Inside Curling. He's been talking about, now teams are too good at the tick shot, and now we gotta go like a 6 rock rule. Like, are teams getting too good at the tick shot, or are people or are you trying to compensate by putting guards in different spots around to compensate for the tick shot?
I do think teams are getting too good at the tick shot, and that something's probably going to have to be done about it at some point. My challenge to that, though, always is that if you're going to take away 1 tick, you have to take away both ticks, because the corner guard tick is easier than a center guard tick. If you're going to take it away from the team with the hammer, you have to take it away from the team without the hammer as well. But so then how do you do that? Because there is no lines on the corner guards. They're only based on the center line, because there's been all kinds of points made about if it's touching the center line, or like Don Bartlett suggested the circles, which I actually agree with, like a long one, a middle one, and a tight one. And if it's within there, then you can't touch it if it's not, because then it puts more precision on you making the guard really well. But then what do you do about the corner guard tick? Because I don't think you can eliminate one, not the other, because then to me it does the same thing that I argued with 4 rock rule versus 5 rock. It takes the advantage and puts it back in the hands of the team without the hammer, which I don't think is right. The hammer team should have the advantage.
The corner guard tick, I don't think I've seen it as much. Is it like Is it kind of like the power play
They play on the
tick,
outside
Yes.
of it.
and where they push the opposing team into the center, into the house, and they roll theirs out?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
it's different. The only thing that's different, I mean, you make it the same way. In
Right.
mixed doubles, the reason that you play it is because once it's like, or in four-person, sorry, the reason that you would play it is because once it's in the house, you can hit it.
You can
In
hit
mixed
it.
doubles,
Yeah.
you can't hit it anyways.
Right.
But it's the same shot, and honestly, because you have so much more house to push it to,
Mhm.
like so much more room, as long as you
Yeah.
hit it anywhere on the high side,
Yeah.
you're good.
You're probably fine.
Where
Yeah.
the center guard tick matters. Like if you end up hitting that 3/4, it's a disaster because now
Yeah.
you're punching them into a good position in the forefoot,
Yeah.
and you're leaving your shooter as a center guard. It's horrible.
Yeah.
But it's hard to miss the corner guard tick in a bad way.
I just
Like
haven't.
probably something good is happening.
Yeah, I just haven't seen the corner tick in the.
It was so
in
Mike
the
McEwen's
four-person.
old team played it a lot. Danny Neufeld
Okay.
played it a ton,
Yeah.
and it became a problem for other teams. I don't see it as much anymore,
Got
but I still think that in like just as a matter of principle as much as anything, if you're going to take it away from one team, I think you have to take it away from both.
That's fair. That's an interesting. Yeah, I like that. An interesting perspective that I've not heard yet. Awesome.
Well, this has been a pretty good masterclass in Five Rock train.
Yeah.
Train.
Five Rock.
Well, The
I
the
like
cool thing about it is we're still learning too. Like
We are
when you
still
talk, when you talked about Four Rock, like the development of strategy was based on the equipment and based on the ice conditions. Like you were able to do things over, probably from mid 90s on with the ice conditions that you were getting that you probably wouldn't do or couldn't do before then. But the rules were the same except for the Moncton, obviously.
modified Moncton.
Yeah, modified. But now with five, it's starting from scratch basically with how you start
is.
and out.
Like I don't
And
think between 3 and 4 Rock to me it didn't change the game that much strategy wise, but between 4 and 5 that's made a massive, like Tyler said, and we still don't know. Like now we have a better idea because we have some stats and we've watched it enough and played it enough that we at least have an idea, but it is still evolving. For
It
sure.
was wild when it first came out.
Oh,
Like
God,
when
it
we
was
were
insane.
playing the slams, and you didn't get a chance to practice
all
it
the
anywhere
time.
else. Oh, it was just a mess out there. Nobody
Everybody
knew
was
what.
playing full skins. Like there was just a million rocks in the forefoot all the time. It was
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, and I think teams were scoring a ton with the hammer, if I'm not wrong, Chelsea. Like
No, I
in
agree
those
with you.
slams, because we didn't realize the whole like having to defend with offense at that point. It was all like, oh well, they got the hammer, so they're probably going to get a chance at 3. We got to, how do you play defense against it? And then after about a season of slams of doing it, we said you can't. You just have to attack. You can't defend. Defending is throwing up the 2 centers and playing more aggressive. Still, that's the only way you can defend in those situations. But what we know now is going to change over the next couple of years too. I think things will settle a little bit. But again, the great thing about Five Rock is that because there is no like cut and dry cookie cutter end, it's going to vary the game a lot more. It's going to make it a lot more fun for the players, and it's going to make it a lot more fun to watch on TV. But it's definitely going to favor the skips that are able to adjust on the fly a lot more, as opposed to having your goal and your process to get there be relatively simple. Now it could change 3-4 times during the course of an end in any given game. There's so many rocks in play that even, if you have a half miss with 2 rocks in play, it's not changing how the end goes. But if you have a half miss with 8 rocks in play, now all of a sudden it might have changed like 3-4 different things on the sheet. So you might have to completely like reset how you're trying to get to the end goal, the end, as opposed to just, oh, we kind of missed that one, but we know we're still peeling on the next one anyways. Like that's not how it goes anymore.
So guys, are you saying? Do you think that the evolution and strategy of the 4 Rock comparative to the 5th Rock was faster, or is it still evolving?
I don't think that it changed that much between 3 and 4. So it's hard to say faster because I think that really, I mean, it made a difference, but not a massive difference, where I think 4 to 5 makes a really big difference.
Right.
And so I don't think you can compare the two as far as the speed of the process goes, just because of the nature of what it changed. But I think that it's fairly set now, but you could still, like, there's still 2 or 3 options depending on how aggressive you want to be and stuff, right? So, you know, you'll see teams that throw a double center on the same side or a double corner on the same side. You'll see teams that throw them on opposite sides. You'll see teams that throw one corner and go around it and try to make the come around good, because then they can't hit either one and go from there. And so, you know, there's still some options. And then same thing with, if you don't have the hammer, you'll see teams that go long center in, like long tight in. You'll see teams that go tight in long. You'll see teams that go in tight long. Like, there's still a progression of calls you can make, but I think that it's like, we now know what the options are. So it's a matter of what your team decides to do and who you're playing and what they're going to do.
How long
One thing that
before-
you're really not seeing hardly at all anymore, one of the few things that's been consistent now, is teams never throwing opposite side corners. That just
Very
doesn't happen.
seldom. Yeah, very seldom.
They're all, it's either, like Chelsea said, it's either two corners on one side stacked, or one medium corner and then underneath that one right away. And neither one is right or wrong. It's what works best for your team. The only difference between the two shots is with the two stacked corners on one side, you have some margin for error. You could be off on line a little bit. You're still going to have your two guards up there. It's not that big a deal. But if you go in under one corner with your second shot, you leave a piece showing, they can dig it out and roll to the center. Now your offense has basically been completely shut down by that play, at least for the start of the end. It's awfully hard for a team to do that to you when you have two corners up on that same side. But yeah, if you don't throw a real good come around draw, and with the ice we play on, odds are you're gonna be able to duck around pretty easy. You might not see that in your club ice, but coming around and digging that rock out, if you leave a piece open, then that can definitely hurt your offense at least.
The only good thing about that rule is that if you try to do it on your seconds first rock, they're not allowed to hit the guard yet. So right. Even if you show a piece, like for me, I usually will wait till seconds. Like, I'll throw another center first and then chase it later, because then if we hit the guard, it's okay. Where on your seconds first rock, if they hit the guard, it hits the boards, everything goes back, and now you're hooped. It's trouble. But I do think you see more on the same side, and I think the same side thing is as much to do with the accuracy of people's peel weight than it used to be, as far as if you throw them on opposite sides. They better not be off by a rock, because then double peel kill, all your guards are gone and you're in trouble, where the stack doesn't have to be perfect for them to not be able to make that double peel. It's easier to avoid the double peel with the corners on the same side than it is with corners on opposite sides.
Joel, do you guys have any like dumb non-curling strategy questions that you need to loop in here too?
Oh, we're full of
before
dumb,
we play
dumb
out
questions.
an entire 10-end game.
Yeah,
okay.
We're
Yeah.
full of dumb
We've
we'll
gone
go-
way deep into the camera
We'll go
on
with
strategy
our,
here.
We'll go with our standard question. Chelsea, we had a fun topic on the podcast a few weeks ago, where because there wasn't much going for curling, and we talked about if you had walk-up music, you know, like baseball players have walk-up music. If you had a walk-up song, what's your walk-up song for, like, you know, when you're getting ready to throw, you're coming up to the plate. Do you have a walk-up song? I know I'm putting you on the spot, but
You are.
I know. You can think about it. I probably have another dumb question.
So in 2016 at the Scotties, we got to pick our walkout song
For like a team
as a
walkout
team.
song.
Like every
Okay.
team had to pick theirs going in, and it's happened at some slams too. But so in 2016, the Scotties was in Grand Prairie,
Mhm.
Alberta, and that was my first Scotties win. And so when we won the provincial championship, we decided that our walkout song, and I'm not a country music fan, let's be clear,
Okay.
but our walkout song would be Alberta Bound by Paul Brandt, which just made sense for Team Alberta in Alberta.
Mm-hmm.
So I will forever have a soft spot for that song. It's the only country music song on my entire phone and like all my playlists.
It's a pretty good memory. I think you should hold on to that one.
Yeah,
Nice.
so that one will
Yeah.
always have a soft spot for me.
Okay.
My dad and his team always had a thing with Flashdance. Larry era, believe that or not. And I've heard, like, before we won in 2016, I heard it on the radio. And I've not heard on the radio in, like, I don't even know how long. And so I texted my dad and I was like, I just heard Flashdance on the radio. And that's
so
after
good.
they'd won in 92, their fifth player had made like this. And at the time, all you had was stills. There was no videos or anything, but he'd taken all the pictures. Like, then the way it worked after the Brier was you could order the pictures, the professional pictures.
Yeah.
They would send you the negatives of all of them and you could order them. And so they'd ordered a bunch, and so their fifth player took a bunch of these still pictures and basically stitched them together in this video to Flashdance.
Nice.
And so it was always a thing for me. And then I heard it again before we won in 2019, so it's like an omen thing now. But
That's
my
good.
my pre-game song, and I don't know if I would use it as a walkout, but my pre-game song is Sail by AWOL Nation.
Sail. Yeah, I don't know that one.
Good,
Close.
intense song. It's
Yeah.
not too
Like,
fast.
Calm, like, I don't know, it's just the perfect,
No, I
it's
get
not
you.
my kind of music at all, but it just
Yeah,
fits
okay.
perfectly for me before a game. Like,
There it is.
it's intense, but it's like,
Like
it's,
a boat,
I'm not
boat
rushing,
sail,
I'm not like,
S-A-I-L.
it's just a good tempo.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
that's kind of my mode too before games. Although I've been asked about like pregame music a lot. Like my playlist that I have for pregame stuff is really varied with regard to the paces and the intensity because
Depending
you
on
know
how
that
you're feeling.
yeah, your energy level is not going to be the same
No.
playing like your third weekend out of 4 in North Battleford. Like, you know, you've been away for a month, you're dead to the world. You know, you might need like AC/DC or something like that to get
Well,
you
just how
going.
you're feeling, like
But-
I had a bad sleep last night, or I'm not feeling well, or whatever,
Yeah.
then I need a more aggressive, like a more pump up song. Or
Yeah,
if I'm
there's-
feeling too amped up, then I want a calming one, you know?
Oh,
There's
yeah.
an energy level that you feel like is your comfort level to play well as an athlete.
Exactly.
And if you're playing in the Scotties or the Worlds or something like that, then you're pretty amped up already. So you're not going to listen to something that's going to amp you up even
Like,
more.
you don't need
something,
Thunderstruck. You don't need
Yeah.
Rocky. You're not
something
you
that'll
don't
bring you.
need
It might
to
be
get more
classical
amped up.
music.
Oh,
It could
yeah.
be
Exactly.
something
This is-
classical. It's just something that
this
brings
is
you to
great.
that level where you feel comfortable.
Colin
This-
Hodgie does a lot of Frank Sinatra. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of Frank Sinatra. That's part
Well,
of his like, pregame stuff.
I would think that
Um,
Haji really needs to calm down.
Yeah, Hodgie very seldom needs to be
Haji-
amped up. That's
Haji-
not usually.
Haji needs to listen
not
to like
usually what he
Enya
needs.
or
Yeah.
He's fairly amped up as a well, not as a human, but as a curler. He's fairly amped up as a curler in general.
yeah.
Yeah, that comes from self-awareness. This knowing
100%.
where you need to
That's-
be to start a game. How do you get there? You know,
I like
it's
it.
not the same thing every single day. You feel differently when you wake up. Like you said, you might sleep differently. You know, there's different things that factor into your energy level before you compete. And the most important thing is recognizing where you perform best, where you need to be to do that. And for some people, they do need to be amped up,
Yeah.
like not
Yeah.
just like from where they were at, but they just need to be excited.
Brad Jacobs with
Yeah.
the fist pumping and stuff, and they'll tell you that they need to be that.
Yeah.
They need to be intense. They need to be amped up, or else they don't play well. But that's not the recipe for everybody. Like some games, I won't listen to any music, and I'll like meditate or do breathing exercises if I feel like I'm too anxious or too amped up. Like I'll spend that same time
Mhm.
just trying to calm myself and bring my heart rate down a bit, because I know
Yeah.
that's where I need to be. But the only reason I know that's where I need to be is because I've tracked it and I've journaled it and I've like learned about myself over the years as far as when do you play your best. That was the thing my dad taught me when I was a kid. Like when I was a kid, like no one is thinking about this stuff. And he's like, okay, so what was the difference? Like you played great tonight and you played bad earlier today. So what was the difference? Like what was different for you for the evening game than the morning game? And people don't think about that
Pretty
enough.
awesome. Yeah.
You have to spend some time analyzing that and tracking it over a period of time to figure out where you play your best as far as your level of being amped up, your level of nervousness, because that's good for some people and bad for some people. Like all that stuff is a huge thing, and that's why curling is a sport where, to me, that's why curling is a sport where you're not necessarily peaking at 20. Because you don't know yourself well enough then. And there's so much downtime. It's like golf. There's just so much downtime and so much thinking time that you need to get yourself in a good headspace. Well, but what's a good headspace for one person isn't for another person.
Yeah.
So it's all completely personal. And then from there, once you figure out what headspace you want to be in, then you have to master how to get there. That's a whole other thing too.
Yeah, that's something I wish I'd done more in my formative years as a curler is recognizing the factors that go into your performance that bring you to your peak, or why you play better in some situations than others, you know, what energy level you need to play. I didn't do near enough of that as a younger player, and that's something that we can impart on the players that we work with now for coaching purposes and things like that, is talking to them about their performance and what they need to be ready to play.
Yeah.
And we, you know, when I coached the junior national team last year, that we harped on that a lot about, and it was something that our team with Schuster did very well, was, you know, we had our schedules, we had our routines we stuck with, but when there's a period of time between the pregame meeting and the start of the game itself, where all 4 of the guys would just do whatever they did. It wasn't organized at all. It's, what do you need to do for this, you know, half an hour period, whatever it is, to be ready to play, then you go do that. Whether it's being social, being on your own, listening to music, you need your own time to do that. You can't have 4 guys come together and expect it all to be the same.
It's not going to be the same. It drives me crazy with Colin because he's like not paying attention. He's talking to other people like right before the game. It's not how I
Or
work.
their mixed doubles team for anybody.
That's what it's like.
Yeah.
That's what it's
It
like.
drives me nuts, but it's okay because that works for him.
That's what it's
So
like
like
for
I
Tyler.
could never do what he does.
That's what it's
ever.
like. That's what it's like for Tyler playing with Hamilton. Because
I didn't even have to say it.
yeah.
Hammy, yeah, and
That's
Hammy's
the
even
thing
more.
is, we
aggressive
understand
and
each other
forward.
in that.
Right.
Like,
Well,
I
yeah.
have no problem with what Matt does to get ready for a game. I just can't do it.
You
I
got.
can't do what he does, the same as Chelsea can't do
Well,
what
you
Colin
can't.
does.
You can't do
And
what
all-
Hamilton does in the game. I mean, Matt's high
I mean,
five
who
in the
can do
crowd,
who
and
can do
you
what
know.
Matt Hamilton does in general in life?
Well,
I
yeah,
would make
I
a
mean,
list of
yeah,
those people
nobody
because
can.
it's small.
But that's the beauty of having a guy like Hammy on your team is he fills those holes that the rest of the guys don't.
Oh yeah.
You know, Matt is on
Absolutely.
our team for that specific purpose.
Yeah.
He needed that.
I mean, he
But
and Landsteiner.
You're not expected to do it like the rest of the team. Like nobody else. We didn't want anybody else doing it.
Right.
You need one of those
Yeah.
on a team.
Yeah, Hamilton and
it works
Landsteiner are
perfectly for us.
foils. You know, they're just
Yeah.
like
They're a good
They-
balance.
They fill holes. They
Yeah.
they had jobs. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
no.
All right, we got a question in the chat. So we're going back to the five rock rule. It was mentioned that in the 4 rock rule, you could script an entire end. Do you think that'll happen with the 5 rock rule as people experiment more and get more comfortable? So is the 5 rock rule going to have to change?
I don't know. I mean, maybe eventually. I think we're a long way from the 5 rock rule having to change at all. I think that the thing with the 5 rock rule, like I said, is that we're now in somewhat of a groove, but there's still more options. Like, so some teams will play the tick on the center line guard and some teams won't. And, you know, so it's a little bit less prescribed because you can combat the 5 rock rule in a number of ways or utilize it in a number of ways. Where the 4 rock rule, there wasn't a lot of debate about which shot was going to be played, no matter who you were playing. Like the only debate was when the game was close, whether or not they were going to throw a center guard or not, basically. So I knew if I was playing Rachel in the first end of the Scotties, that she's going to draw into the top of the 4-foot and play for a blank if she had the hammer.
Yeah.
And I knew if I was playing Jennifer, that if I went in with the first rock, she was not going to hit that rock. She was going to throw a corner guard. But those are really the only two things you could either throwing a guard or you're going into the house. Where in the 5 rock roll, you could play a tick, you could throw a guard on the other side, you could draw the wing, you could go around the guard that the other team threw. There's just a few more options, but I think that we know what the options are. It's just a matter of trying to predict what the team you're going to play against does, or at least owning your own response to each of those options.
Yeah, I think because there's so many more rocks in play all the time with 5 rock rule now, or I shouldn't say all the time, but most of the time, there's just going to be so many different rock combinations that you see and positions that you see that it won't be like you won't be able to map out an entire 5 rock end. I don't think ever. You know, you can map out how your ends tend to go based on what works for your team. And I think things like the 2 center guards are going to be used more and more, and they already are. So there are certain things that you can expect to see, I think, like tendencies, but because there's so many more rocks in play, you're not going to be able to say this is how this end is going to go, because there's just going to be so many more shots you can play and so many other positions that you can see from having those rocks, having more rocks in play. So I don't think that it'll ever get as typecast as the 4 rock rule did. I think it's just going to be a difference in the tendencies you see, but not like staying like, I think the question was, can we just map out an end and know, like, if everybody makes their shots, that's how it's going to go, like you could with 4. I don't think that'll be the case, just because when you throw more variables into play, it's impossible to predict what's going to happen.
Well, you also throw more variables into each shot. So if you're talking about a tick shot, like that could be completely successful, somewhat successful, not at all successful in 18 different ways, as far as exactly where both those rocks roll, where you tap theirs to, where your shooter rolls to. So when you bring in more complex shots early in an end, which we didn't see very much in 4-Rock roll, the variables, like Tyler said, are too great for us to be able to predict it the way that we did with 4-Rock roll.
I show you guys how hard it's snowing here right now. This is the hardest maybe I've ever seen it snow. These snowflakes are like hail. Look at the size of these things.
Holy crap!
Wow, that's insane.
Dang.
This is like our last big snow. We always get one of these in March.
I think it's
absolutely insane.
All right. Well, thanks to everybody who's still watching, and you guys for being here. We've all tuned in to watch curling, and a soccer match has broken out. It's 1-0. We do want to thank one of our sponsors, though. Well, we got a second. Alchemy.com. Very generous with their money, and we want to thank them. Your technology solution provider, ALQIMI.com. They sponsor our podcast. They've sponsored a number of other teams and curling events and stuff like that. So check them out if you need
software development, enterprise computing, healthcare, IT, big data, artificial intelligence, analytics. It looks like they do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, computer stuff, nerd stuff. We really appreciate them. But we're pretty nerdy too with all our strategy talk. So
real easy to go down the rabbit hole with that stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I enjoy listening to it, and we've got some comments that people are enjoying it. Somebody texted me and suggested that we send Tyler, you, and Chelsea both a basket of old-fashioned supplies, and just let you have at it for a couple hours, old fashions and strategy.
Whoever recommended that is a genius.
Although I love this plan. Like, I love this plan.
Go in the other room and make one right now. Yeah. No, that'd be fun. Actually, it'd be fun to have one that's targeted like only around like curling strategy and like and having people write in and have questions about this stuff, so we don't feel like we're just going on and on about it. But if it's targeted to that, so people tune in specifically for it, then that'd be really fun. Yeah. I mean,
old fashions and strategy. What could go wrong?
We got another question. So because there are more options, even though there would be tendencies, you could really throw someone off by not going to a typical tendency. So
I think it's kind of like I mean, I was just gonna say it's kind of like poker.
Reverse psychology, or what? What is he?
Well, I guess if you're talking about trying to throw somebody's strategy out by doing something unexpected, that's all well and good to a certain degree, but it's hard to do that a lot in curling for two reasons. Number one, you have a goal that you're trying to reach for the end. You're not going to do something different solely to confuse your opponent that's going to take away from what you're trying to accomplish. So it's hard to surprise your opponent with something like that that's still productive for you. Number two, your opponent knows what you're trying to accomplish. So if you do something that's off the wall that they don't expect, odds are it's probably not a very good call. So you're getting away from what you're trying to do just to confuse your opponent usually isn't a good idea. Now, there might be like a couple different options for a shot where you might do something that would make your opponent scratch their head a little bit, but that's a question that we get a lot from people that don't curl or don't play about strategy, because we're talking openly about what we're doing all the time. So like, well, if you're talking about it, then your opponent knows what you're trying to do. Well, 99% of the time, we both know what the other one's trying to do anyways. Yeah. So you're not really like letting them know what you're doing. Like they know in essence, and they can't stop you even if they know, because there's no defense. You can't lay down in front of a rock or something.
And you would think it would be almost like the other skip would say thank you, like for doing that, because now you've opened up the game.
Yeah. You're not gonna. It's probably more counterproductive to do something unusual than it would be, like to help you. Like your opponent isn't going to get thrown by a change in strategy all that much if it's something that's productive for you, I guess is what I'm saying.
With strategy,
I think the only caveat, I agree with that completely. The only thing when the year that we did work with the statistics that was interesting to me is we didn't change the strategy at all. Like the way we went offensive or defensive was all the same. but which end you do it in sometimes can be based on the other team's numbers and tendencies. So for example, you're playing a team that likes to blank the first end, but their odds of winning don't go up when they blank the first end. Their odds stay the same, but they tend to give up big ends in 2. Well, then we let them blank 1. We don't have the hammer, we go in, we let them blank the first end because we're okay with that. And then in 2, we go double centers, like full force steal, because we know they're going to play more aggressive in 2 based on their statistics. Like, but you don't actually change your strategy really. It's just you use a different one of your strategies at a different time based on the other team.
Interesting.
Yeah, and you can, it's more important really, I mean, just as a general rule that you do what works for your team.
Yes, agree with
and
that.
you don't worry about your opponent's strategy.
I feel like it's a
play to your
mistake.
strengths. You can, if you can get their weaknesses in there, great. But you're playing way more to what you want to accomplish and what you're good at than what your opponent isn't. I would say 95% of the time at least.
That's a danger that people run into with the stats, and I think that is a very good point. Like, you can look at the other team's stats all you want, but if you're not going to make the shots that force them into what you're trying to force them into, then you're going to lose anyway. So if their weakness is in turns, but yours is too, then just keep throwing out turns. Like, do what you normally do. It doesn't make any sense. If you happen to find a weakness that you can exploit, then do it. But other than that, I think more often than not, you're better off to just stick to your own game plan and play your own team's strengths than to worry about what the other team is doing.
And usually at the higher levels of the game too, the weaknesses are pretty negligible, like with regard to their performance. Like, just for an example, I don't think this is breaking news to anybody, but if we played Nicholas, Team Sweden, if we had an option between giving him an intern or an outturn, we'd give him an intern. Right. But it's not that his intern is bad. It's that he might be 90% instead of 95. It's just a small tendency.
Kevin Cooey, it's the same thing. Don't give, especially on a hit. Don't give Kevin an outturn hit. If you
don't give him an outturn.
You want him to hit with his intern. We all know that. That's not breaking news.
Yeah.
Like, these are minor things.
It doesn't mean that if we can force him to that shot, then he's going to miss or we're going to win. No. It just means, like, okay, if we have an opportunity to give them one turn or the other based on what we know about them, then we're going to do that. They're still really, really damn good at it. But if there's a tiny little advantage we can get from that, great. But we're never catering our strategy to it completely. It's just a matter of keeping it in mind in case there's a decision to be made where we can force them to one side or the other. And those things can make a difference in winning a game or not when you're playing at those levels. But it's never going to be something that you cater your strategy to completely.
Yeah, I think club play is a little bit different, where you can screw with your opponent a little bit. Several years ago, I was playing third for a guy, and he was being real quiet about something. I couldn't figure out why he's being so quiet about this. And afterward, he said, "Well, I really didn't want the other skip to know that I want this like run back." And I'm pretty sure Debbie McCormick, world champion, sees that run back. Like, he's trying to hide this one run back we got from Debbie McCormick. Like, I think at that time, like, she won worlds like the year before. So she won in 2004. I think this is like 05 or 06. I'm like, pretty sure world champion Debbie McCormick sees the angle run back you're talking about. So yeah, it depends on who you're playing.
Well, it does. And even in the top of the game, maybe this might be different on the men's side than the women's side, but there are situations where, like, probably not if you're playing top 10 teams, but we're playing in a Scotties or in a slam or whatever. There are situations where I lean over to my third and be like, they haven't talked at all about the fact that this little slash will kill that one. Like, they haven't looked at it, but I don't really want them to throw it. So maybe they don't know. And so then we purposely don't demonstrate it to show them, but like, you're probably not surprising people very often. Like, I did it in juniors and stuff where I would play mind games with people and call something weird because I was always regarded as somebody who understood strategy maybe better than some of the other players and stuff. So like, I would do it on purpose to mess with people. But once you get past that point, there's not really any messing with people strategy wise. Like, if you call something weird, it's probably, to Tyler's point, it's probably not the right call. and you likely end up hurting yourself more than helping yourself, because I don't think it's really going to throw them off. They'll be like, what the hell? That made no sense. That was a dumb call. And then they'll go and play whatever they're going to play, and then you give up 2 or whatever. Like, it's not a mental, like, psyching people out thing at that point once you get to top levels of curling.
Yeah.
I always had a fun time playing. I had a third in men's league one where I would just give him the broom and give him the weight, and like he knows I'm playing the crosshouse double. I'm not saying it out loud for the other skip to hear, but I'm calling the house double. The guy throwing it knows I'm playing the crosshouse double. The other skip doesn't know I'm playing the crosshouse double. It's like when we actually make it, he gets all pissed that, oh, you got lucky. Like, well, no, I called it, but I didn't have to call it.
Yeah.
So in the leagues that we're used to, I think that's a little more of an option than playing down at a competitive level, because yeah, most of the skips have seen pretty much everything.
Well, and usually if something surprises you, like the odd time I'm surprised by a call, I'm like, that was not a good plan.
If you're surprised by something, odds are you're happy.
Exactly, yeah. Usually you're ecstatic. Like, I have no idea why she's throwing this draw instead of just hitting this rock or whatever it is, but like you're almost always happy.
I can count on one hand the number of times that we did something smart at the top level of the game and it confused our opponent. I can think of a couple. I don't really want to bring them up because it's kind of...
I'm also not going to bring them up. I also have a couple, but like we're talking, I could count them on one hand, probably.
Yeah, but a situation where you do something that's like, it's maybe not the norm, it's a little outside the box, and your opponent doesn't really know why you're doing it, but you know why you're doing it.
Yeah. And
then it ends up working in your favor.
Out,
like,
yeah.
Well, one of the guys is on TV right now that we did it to, actually. But it's a rare occasion. It doesn't happen very often. It has to be something really unusual for the most part. And because even if it's just a little bit unusual, there's a pretty good chance that they had thought of it or could at least understand it. So yeah, I would love to be able to make calls or decisions that my opponent never saw coming, and it really helped us. But it's really, really damn hard to do.
It doesn't work that way.
Are you saying, Ty, that there's never a time when a skip calls a shot and the second, who's like a third-year curler, throws like peel weight instead of hack weight and then buries 3 stones behind 4 guards and scores 4 on you? That never happens?
Well, I don't know that would go on the being surprised at the call.
No.
The result, that happens all the time in this sport.
The dagger always comes in club curling.
I'm surprised with the result most of the time when I throw the rock.
Called are the ones that kill you. Yeah.
Right. You had a few, Chelsea, you said that you had made smart calls that the skip didn't know about.
She's being polite though and not bringing them up because that's kind of the code too. We don't throw our opponents under the bus saying how much smarter we were than them, because odds are they did it to us at some point too, and it all comes around.
100% true. And when I've done the few that I can think of, the other skip has actually come up to me at some point, like after the game, and said like, "That was brilliant."
Yeah,
I was like, thanks. And I would do the same thing because it's been done to me as well, where I'm like, oh, they don't have anything over there, and then they make something happen, and I go, holy crap, like that was awesome. Like I'm mad about it because it's gonna make me lose the game, but like I'm impressed by that, and I'll do the same thing. And that's what's great about the top level of the game, is that there is that, like, if you make a great shot or a great call or whatever, the other team or the other player usually will just be like, dude, that was awesome. Because we're all
somebody out there is saying right now probably, I can't believe Tyler fell for that, like the same way. It was so dumb. He never saw it coming. So we keep those to ourselves, except for the private conversations after a couple of those aforementioned old fashions that you talked about.
But have you ever gotten away with anything?
What do you mean?
With regard to
like you threw that shot and the skip really didn't realize.
Oh
like
yeah,
you
that's
got
what we're talking about.
that's
Is like
exactly what we're
made
talking
a call that they don't see, and so they've been for sure. They're standing at the back when it's happened to me. I'm standing at the back playing, and then it works out good, and then you go, holy shit, that was a brilliant call.
Yeah.
Oh, good,
And
another
that's
blank.
and, like, so I've gotten away with it. I've also been the victim of it, and that's why we don't say what the shots were, who it was against, because it's happened to us on both sides. But yeah, it's the occasional time where, like, I remember, and I don't know that it was necessarily a huge surprise, but it was one of the first times I've ever seen it called and made was when Ryan Fry made the, like, they'd made ticks.
Oh,
the
tick
run and
roll.
roll to center and top button.
Yeah.
I like that's a call that everyone, well, most people now have thought about, but at the time I think it was more.
Wasn't that the Brier final against Pat?
Brier final? Yes, it was.
Oh my God, that might be the greatest shot I've ever seen. It's right up there.
Incredible. It's absolutely incredible, and the creativity of the call. And now it happens more often where people try stuff like that, but that's a call where, like, as the other team at that time, like, I don't think now, but at that time you go, what are they doing? And then they make it perfect and run it and roll. Now they've got a center guard and one buried top button right behind it. Like, holy crap. And that's where, as the other skip, if you didn't see it, which you might not have then, now you would be prepared, but you might not have seen it then, would go, like, congrats.
Absolutely.
Like, that is a brilliant call. And obviously quickly executed.
Kevin actually tried to do that against us in the Olympic semifinal. He tried to play a combo 2-rock roll to the center. But the angle wasn't really there to do it like it was for Fry's shot. Well, but he certainly could have made it tougher on us.
Right. At some point, you have to just try stuff too. Like, we've tried it before and it hasn't worked. But it's when you're going to lose the game anyway. At that point, why not try it? Right? Like, if everything's ticked over to the wings and you got to steal one, what else are you going to do? And so it's little things like that, though, to my point where, as far as like surprising the other skip, I don't think that would surprise anybody anymore. But at that time it did. When Rachel first came out with the tick shot, here's the thing that's crazy about the 2013 Scotties, where Lisa Weigel won the MVP, the only non-skip to win the MVP in, like, forever, as far as I'm concerned, certainly for a long time.
Yeah.
They didn't play the tick all year against anyone. They kept that. That was a secret that no one knew about, that they'd been practicing it, but they didn't play it. And then at the Scotties, they busted out and play it and made it every time. And no one knew how to defend it because they hadn't introduced us to it yet, to play the offensive tick, like we talked about before, where, like, you roll behind. Like, the tick at that time was only if you were 3 up coming home and, like, they were throwing center guards and you were playing ticks, but people didn't practice them really.
It's like Philly special, but
to the
every
point
game.
that they were expert at it and they were playing it no matter what the score was. And everybody else in the field was like, what the hell do we do?
What do we do?
Because they're making these ticks and now they've had no time to prepare a strategy for it. It was brilliant. Like, that, the way they did that was brilliant.
Nice. I didn't realize
that Fry shot is the only time I can remember in my entire curling life that I saw a team, before they threw a rock, have no center guards and no rocks in the house. And after the shot was done, have a perfect center guard and a rock buried completely underneath it.
Top button.
Yeah.
Top button.
And buried too. Like,
it's buried.
Half buried.
You can't walk that down. Like, even though they called it and made it, it's one thing to get them, like, to spin them both the right way. Like, the way it landed, I was just like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. I remember Fry's reaction too. Like, it was muted for those guys. He's just like,
borderline laughing. He was borderline laughing about it.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, is fair enough, but yeah, that was fun to watch.
1-0 in the 8th.
Yeah, if I bet on the Manitoba Northern Ontario game, you are laughing right now.
My goodness.
What was the under? Did anybody have the
11.5, I think.
11.5.
Yeah. Hope they had the under.
Yeah.
That's a standard under. There's a few games you can go to like 12 and 13.5, but most of them are 11.5.
The Nunavut game's got to be have a little bit more.
Well, Ty, we talked about it at the beginning of the game, but check out these beauties
there's
here.
The team.
2012, is that right?
Is it 2000? Mid 2010s.
2012.
Summer Spiel. Played third for Joel.
Yeah,
Won the event. Joel's first title as a skip.
as a skip.
Beauty.
That's Rice Lake, right?
Yeah.
And that's we had some guests at that event, didn't we?
That's when Kevin had hair.
Uh,
Some townie event. There's some townie
oh,
guests.
yeah, some locals, yeah.
Yeah,
Remember in the hookout.
That
Yeah.
those townies brought some culture to that spiel that's never going to go away. So
Mhm. Yeah, it's a good time. If anybody's got the time, go down, find your way to the Rice Lake Summer Spiel in Rice Lake, Wisconsin, mid to end of August. It's a really good time.
It's a good one.
Yeah,
Free beer with your entry.
Karaoke
Yeah.
at Mr. Bob's on Saturday
Endless
night.
beer with your entry.
Yeah.
Mr.
I've curled in Wisconsin once,
Oh.
one time, but I do encourage it because it was amazing. So
That's right. You came down for the
Is that the
mixed
Mantown
double spiel.
Double down.
Madison, yeah, with Johnny
Yeah.
Moe.
Oh, with Johnny Moe. That's right.
Yeah, that was our first time doing the live stream for the broadcast. That
Fact. Yep.
Yes, I was a guest on that live stream.
You were.
was yeah, and we got some crap because we were broadcasting.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So we were broadcasting to the
CBC picked it up.
it was first it was the World Curling Tour's YouTube page.
Oh, yeah.
And then they contacted the CB, or somehow the CBC got in touch with them, and so the CBC wanted to pick up the stream, and so it put it up on the CBC's online channel.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh crap. So because for one, we didn't have the bandwidth for it to put up 2 streams. Our cable company, I had put in for an upgrade, but like a day before the event, the cable company canceled the appointment, and then they said, well, we can come out on Saturday. It's like, doesn't matter. Like, so
weren't they like Joel? Weren't they asking you for your credentials and stuff? Like what affiliation or what's your affiliate? And
they
stuff?
were they didn't know that I actually ran the entire stream off of this laptop here. So so yeah, we didn't mute anybody on the ice, so there's people swearing, like they're getting the whole shebang online. So we're getting feedback from the CBC on, people are swearing, like, yeah. And so whenever the feed would go down, I would get emails. Like, I was CC'd on emails with like 10 other people at the CBC saying, hey, the feed's down. It's like, is there something wrong with the truck? And they're looking for the broadcast truck. Like, I thought about answering like, yeah, my Nissan's running great, but thanks for asking. But
I would have answered, you're right, it's gone. Where's the truck?
We should have had like
Yeah.
a Hot Wheels car with a satellite dish on it and just taken like a really close up pic. No, truck's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on.
truck's great.
We'll get a guy on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Haven't been asked yet for the stream yet
No.
on that event.
No. Oh well.
But yeah. But it was fun. Yeah, Chelsea and Johnny Moe got on the stream.
Mhm.
Did a broom shooter with fireball.
Yeah. Yeah. There was that.
Yeah.
There was I mean, at the end of the day, how like CBC friendly do you think it could possibly be with Ty Vietnam as part of the crew?
Yeah. I mean, it's like,
Commentary.
We only swore a little.
yeah. And yeah. And there was some
It was me and Ty. We only swore a little.
and there were some emails that got back to us saying like, these guys aren't professional. Yeah. We know. Like,
We know.
yeah.
We
And
didn't say
Yeah.
we were.
And
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Speaking of Morris, by the way, is he going to win another Brier with a different team? He really is, isn't he?
Real good chance, yeah.
Sure.
Although, do you know what? Kevin's last 2 Briers have only come after I won the Scotties, so I've had a number of people text me and be like, better tell Kevin he can't possibly win the
Can't
Brier
possibly
because we
win.
didn't win the Scotties.
Good point.
It's impossible now.
I'm gonna put my money on somebody other than Cooey all of a sudden because you didn't win.
Then he texted me after
Yeah.
we won in 19. I mean, and that was obviously, that game was insane, right? But he sent me a text and he was like, I mean, there's expletives in there that I won't repeat, but
Shocking.
anyways, I answered him back. I answered him and said like, hey, thanks, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, now it's your turn. Because like, whenever I win, you win. He's like, that's what I said to the boys. So I'm just
Nice.
It just seems like the vibe of every team that Morris goes to like changes. Like the confidence level changes. Not that Kevin needs it, but
well, Kevin's not like, Kevin can get in his own head, and so confidence helps him. But I do think so. When I played with John in that event in Madison, I wasn't sure what to think because he can be a lot. Like he talks a lot. He's very opinionated. He's very like present in all the decisions and stuff. I honestly really enjoyed playing with him, and I do feel like he made me better. And I don't even know how he did it. It wasn't like anything obvious that he did differently. But he has a bit of that. I would say Kathy O has that on teams as well. Like she just walks into whatever team she's on, and they suddenly all get better. It's wild, but they have that thing. And and John hadn't thrown at that Madison event. That was what, November?
Yeah.
John hadn't thrown a rock since the Olympics. In
First
February.
weekend in November.
Yeah.
Yeah. Since February, not one rock. So he was rusty as hell, and he was not helping us with shot making to start the week. But it just, I wondered if I would get annoyed with how much he was talking but he was actually great. Like when a few times where I disagreed with him, he was like, yeah, you're right. And like we went with what I thought. Like he's a good teammate. Like he could be a lot over a long period of time, but I feel like for this team, for this amount of time, they're going to be disgustingly good with him on the team.
That brings up a fun question too, Chelsea. I forget who I was talking with this about the other day, but of all the players that you've played with in any event, who do you think you learned the most from, or you're most surprised by, like how much you learned from playing with them?
That's a great question.
I have an easy answer for myself for this because I've thought about it and because it was amazing playing with them. But yeah, if you really think about like all the tournaments you played in, like who I remember thinking like, wow, this person really knows what they're doing, or the way they play the game, like it made you change things about how you played it.
And you can leave out your teammates from House of Hearts, like that's that's on a whole different plane on what you learn.
I actually think that like there's a number of people that come to my mind immediately with this. So like I'm lucky that I've got a number of options. I actually think I might have learned the most from Colin.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
now he's gonna have that over our heads now too.
Oh,
I know. Well, I considered Ben as an answer, but that would have been a disaster. So
yeah, we're not winning with either one. We'll hear about it from both of them.
No, but I think the thing that to me, what I've learned from Colin, and I've taken it to a number of, and I don't even know that it's about the game, but I think it's about the relationship between, like I've played back end for the vast majority of my career, and sweeping has like front end rolls and sweeping and stuff has evolved so much in that time. And I think what I learned from Colin is just, and to me, and people ask me about the difference between men's and women's curling all the time, like people that don't understand curling. And they're like, well, why? This seems like a sport where you shouldn't have to distinguish genders. And I say, well, yeah, the reason that you have to is just a strength thing as far as sweeping goes. Like the men's sweeping is better than the women's sweeping. Like I think throwing the rock harder, fine, but like that comes into play so seldom really that I think the biggest difference is sweeping and precision of rock placement because of sweeping. And what I've learned from Colin is just differences in communication as the line caller to the sweepers and how many more shots you make with that. So the prime example would be you watch women's teams do it and they go, they're throwing a guard and they want a tight guard. They want a 3. And then both sides will say, like, so the person in the house says line's good. And the sweepers say weight's good, line's good, weight's good, line's good, weight's good. and you go back and forth, but like you're not talking a precise placement. We're not talking top button. You don't have a reference for where that rock is going. So if it's 2 feet shorter than where you want it to be on this ice at the Brier, you're going to undercurl it. So line's good for what? And that was what Colin would it drove him crazy when I would say line's good. He's like, don't ever tell me line's good. If you're going to say line's good, tell me for where, like for what depth. And then that lets me like line's good for the freeze. And he goes, we're tapping. Then I'm like, okay, then curl it. Or line's good for 3. Well, we're not 3. Okay, well then curl it. Line's good for 2. Well, we're 3. Well, then get off it because it's been over curl. Like the communication, the little nuances of communication between the sweepers and the person in the house, I think has been the biggest difference. And when I bring it to my women's teams, they all go, that is amazing. Like, why haven't we always been doing this? And I'm like, I know, but it just doesn't happen in the women's game as much as it does in the men's game because of the precision of their sweeping. They're on a different level as far as the communication. But even though I don't have men's sweepers and women's curling, we can still communicate that way and make more shots that way. And we did it at the Scotties, and Kristen McCush said to me, like, that is so helpful for us. When you say line's good for 3, okay, well, we're not 3. Okay, well, then we can change it and we can get more. I think getting more out of the shot that's coming down the ice at you is the biggest difference. Like strategy, execution, like slide, whatever, we've all got that pretty much figured out, where like might not be your day sometimes, you're not throwing the rock great or whatever, but if you can just get a little bit more out of every shot that's thrown, you win a lot of games just based on that. And I think that all comes down to communication.
Yeah, I think one thing you brought up that's really important for league players, improving players, intermediate players, is what Colin was talking about with lines good for what. At the lower levels of the game, the shot calling by the skip and the shooter is dominant, like out of hand immediately. Like it's all about the line, like where it's thrown. And you don't get any input from the sweepers early enough for it to matter where the line call is.
Russ Howard fell in love with the line, mesmerized by the line.
Yeah, exactly.
But you wait, and that doesn't matter. If you can have the best line in the world, if the weight's wrong, then you're screwed, or vice versa. But like that's about talking to each other. That's all you have to do, talk to each other.
Yeah, and the weight that the sweepers see is lost way more in that communication 100%. Than the line is, because the people that are calling line are doing it immediately. Like they're just taking over the shot right from the start. But the sweepers need to have that weight communicated immediately as well, or the line call, it's a moot point. Like it's both, but the one that gets lost way more is the weight.
Well, and I think that to your point, because like as the thrower and as the person in the house, your job you think is to yell line, all the time.
Yeah.
But there needs to be a conversation there. And I think something that could really help teams, up and coming teams especially, is to have some sort of script, which I've done for probably about 15 years now, where you script who talks first and when they talk. So when the person lets go of the rock, the way we do it is that I'm the first voice. So they let go of the rock. They might say something to the sweepers, but the first yell is me saying, we got room, line's close, or line's tight. And you pick those words because then they can hear you no matter who's yelling over. Like, don't use different words, use the same words all the time. And then they answer me, weight's close. And like right out of the hand, you don't need to say it's back 8. You just need to say, we'd like to go, weight's close, or it's all there, or whatever the words are. Basically light, close, or heavy. And then go back and forth. Like every time I give a line call, they should give a weight call.
Another point. Another point. More points
Gunner
in
missed
curling.
the tap there.
Really
overthrew
so
that.
far behind. Like I'm. I can't believe how much different the
that's the difference between
Chelsea
you're basically watching live, so.
Chelsea, for our one viewer, we sometimes because we know who you're talking about. You're talking about Colin, but sometimes a lot of people don't know their last name or who they are. So when you're saying Colin, who are you speaking of?
Oh, Colin Hodgson. Haji, as we all know him better.
Lead for Mike McEwen.
He plays lead for Mike McEwen on team Wildcard 1 or Manitoba Grey, depending how you look at it. That's Brier.
Yeah,
we sometimes we do that a lot. We because we know everybody.
Yeah,
so
and I do it too, and I'm terrible for it.
Also, we just had a different Colin on the podcast
that's true.
2 episodes ago. So
Tyler, can I guess who yours is?
Yeah, go right ahead.
I'm gonna guess Pat Simmons when you played a few events with Pat.
That's a really good guess because that's exactly right.
Yes.
Yeah, Pat Simmons. We got to that team actually got put together at House of Hearts. Pat and I were rooming together, and Steiner couldn't play at the. I think it was Players. I think it was Players Championship. I can't remember. I don't know, but it was the last slam of the year, and Steiner was out, so I would just offhand mention to Pat that we were short a guy, and he's like, "Oh, I'm available if you need somebody." Pretty good spare,
decent.
And Pat coached us once as my women's team once, and he was amazing. And like I learned things from him that like, and I mean I've been very privileged with I've obviously I've never learned any more things from anyone than I have from my dad, but Pat introduced me to some new concepts that like when I thought I had sort of figured it out, and I was playing with Lainey Peters at the time, like she's older than Pat and he was teaching her stuff too. He's incredibly knowledgeable and just like a student of the game kind of guy.
Yeah, he's
amazing.
We were lucky enough to have him just for that week, and he played second and Hamilton bumped back to lead, and it wasn't that Pat was doing anything revolutionary, or something surprising or anything like that. It was his attention to detail and all the little things he did. The way he did everything was just, he never missed a detail, like a line, a way to talk to a teammate, like he picked up right away, like how he could talk to different guys in the team, always cleaning pads, the stuff that seemed like it's really simple, but he never failed to do it at any point. And when we watch a guy that professional go about their business that way, and the little things they would do with the lines and paying attention, getting behind shooters and watching lines for the opponents, talking about a shot you played 6 ends ago and when the ice was completely different, everything he did was just so focused on the minutia, but he did it without overanalyzing at the same time. And there's a lot of teams that lose themselves in trying to find the little tiny edges and over talking about lines on shots and releases and what's going on, that they struggle because of that, because there's too much information going on. Pat was able to like channel all that into something simple enough that it never made things overcomplicated for us. Like he was always able to get across what was needed without making it too much. We were still able to focus on shot, weight, line, and keeping it simple that way. But Pat always had a little something that would help one way or another without being overbearing. It was, I learned so much about how to handle yourself as a teammate and in a professional way about doing those little things, the details that help your team win from Pat that week, probably more than any other spiel I played.
Do you guys notice, like, we talk about gripping or like freezing up or, when you're down. I've played on teams where when we are down, the communication level goes up and we get better, where there's some teams when we're not doing well and we're not making shots and and all of a sudden the communication drops off. Do you guys notice that in this higher level competitive play, where they kind of like grip and they say, I'm done, I'm out, I'm not going to talk anymore, where you actually need to talk more to get better?
I would personally suggest that the tendency is to get quieter as things go poorly, which is not a good tendency, but it just is what it is. And I know that's a struggle that I've had with most of my teams over the years. Yikes. Is that everybody sort of gets quiet and goes into themselves when things don't go well, and then it gets worse and worse. So I think the more you can talk in those situations, the better, with the caveat that sometimes when the ice is tough and you aren't sure where to put the broom and you aren't sure what speed it's going to be in that path, you can over talk sometimes, like overanalyze sometimes as well. So both of those things are a reality. But I think as far as just things not going your way, if it's not about ice, if it's not about like things aren't working, usually the tendency is to get quieter versus get more talkative, and that is going to kill you. So the more talking in those situations, I would suggest in general, the better.
And not chatty talking, but just
No, but like just anything,
Right,
like
right.
it's energy as much as anything else. Like it's not even about what you talk about. It's
like,
just
here we
about-
go.
Yeah,
We're gonna
like,
make-
everybody-
here we
and
go.
the quieter everybody gets, the more you sort of resign yourself to the fact that you're going to lose. So
Right.
you just get into this negative headspace, and it's not going to help. So even if you're not talking about curling, about pass, about anything, like point to somebody. I mean, not during COVID, but like point to the cardboard cutout in the crowd that's ridiculous, and talk about that, like anything, to get everybody's energy level
Make
up a
fun
little
of
bit. I
Benny
think it's
Hebert.
a lot about energy
Everybody
versus
should make
about
fun of
actual
Benny Hebert.
conversations about
Just not to his
what
face.
you can
Just
do.
not to.
Yeah, and that's again works for all levels too. I remember a timeout we had with the junior team I coached last year, where the guys they had the right shot. They weren't quite positive about the call, but they had made the call pretty much. They said, "Well, let's call timeout and check with Ty." So they called timeout. And I came out there and they said, "We like this here." And I said, "Yeah, you guys got the broom?" They said, "Yeah, we're good, dude." So that's the right shot. So then we talked about any movies we'd seen over the next minute.
Nice.
Like,
Right on.
what'd you guys do? What's the last one you saw in a theater? We talked
Right.
about that for the next minute. The timeout was done, and that was it.
There you
It
go.
was good because they were tense at the time too, and you
Yeah.
could see them kind of realize like, oh yeah, no, we're good, we got this. Just taking their minds off it just for a second. Just with something dumb like Chelsea was saying about looking up at people in the stands and things like that. It's okay to do things like that. It doesn't necessarily mean you're losing focus as much as you're just giving your brain a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
you need
Thing
sometimes.
that it's like if you expect to be able to stay focused for 10 or 11 ends like the entire time,
You'll burn out.
you're lying to yourself. There's no way to do that. So you have to take the breaks when you can. And again, this is a bit of a self-awareness thing as far as what works and what doesn't. Like some people look around at other games and whatever. I've never been a big believer in that, so I try not to do that. But we at one point with my old team, my 2019 team, we had a rule where at fifth end break, we weren't talking about curling. Like fifth end break was a break. It was a mental break. So you could talk about whatever you wanted, but not about the game.
Cool.
And that was the whole idea. And that was my sports psych, my mental trainer at the time, who suggested it.
Nice.
He coached Rachel Holman for a number of years, and he
Oh.
was like, like don't feel like you have to do this, but this is an option, and it worked pretty good for us. And like for me, I like to talk about the game at the fifth end break, but as a team, that wasn't working very well. So we went with the fifth end break being a break. Like you don't think about curling, you don't talk about curling. You shoot the shit about whatever you want to talk about. Like Ty said, like what movies have you seen? What Netflix series are you watching? Whatever, like
It's pretty awesome.
something else, anything else,
Right,
to just get yourself out of it for a minute.
because Chelsea, it's like there's this energy that you build up. It's just like this angst, like, oh gosh, and you need to get that energy out. And it's just that talk, that like release of that bad shit, the bad energy, just let it go. And I think it's that kind of thing, because there's been situations where I've been in and I'm like, hey, what's the weather like outside? Or did you see this guy like fall on the ice the other like 3 sheets over or whatever? It just changes the dynamic of the game. It makes their brains shift.
Like
And
sometimes everybody just needs a little
Yeah.
break, a little relief.
Where am I
And I
going to
mean,
get my next sandwich from?
I joke about this all the time. So and they talk about it lots with like, so, and the Brier and the Scotties are like this with now the number one team getting a bite at the final. You have a lot of time off. Like you're waiting around for that game, which is difficult because it's a huge game. And we had it before the trials in 2017. We got the bite of the final and we were waiting around, and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with myself, because I didn't like you have a chance to go to the Olympics. Like as a Canadian curler, that's like a once in a lifetime kind of opportunity in theory. So I was like, what am I going to do? I need something to take my mind off it for at least a little while during the day. Like we have practice and we have whatever else, but like if I just sit in a hotel room, I'm going to go crazy. And so my teammates were all doing different things, and Lainey was like, I'm going to the spa, you should come with me for a massage. I'm like, if I lay there for an hour-long massage, I'm going to leave more tense than when I showed up, because all I'm going to do is think about the fact that I have a game to go to the Olympics.
Right.
So this is a disaster of an idea. So I made my parents go with me to an escape room.
There you
Oh
go.
my gosh.
For a 1 hour period of time, I was not thinking about curling. I was trying to escape from the escape room, and
But your brain was still focused. It was still intense. It was still
mental break. Like I needed something to make my brain focus on something besides curling. And so I had a 1 hour reprieve from worrying about the game I was about to play. And honestly, it was the best thing I could have done. Like I was so happy that I don't even know what made me come up with it. And there happened to be one sort of near the hotel. So we got a driver to take us there and pick us up after and whatever. And my parents had never done an escape room before. So that was interesting as well because they were learning as we went. But I'm like, I don't care at all if we escape or not or whatever. I just need a 1 hour break from worrying about the fact that I'm about to play a game that could send me to the Olympics.
I was shot by Mark there, by the way.
That was a good
too.
shot, yeah. I wasn't.
Yeah, he's pretty good at curling.
Quick non-curling sidebar too. I told you guys that it was snowing like crazy here.
Yeah.
2 hours south of us, there's a tornado.
Oh, fun.
So,
Nice.
welcome to March weather in
Yeah,
Minnesota.
absolutely.
Yeah, my brother Mike was on the stream, and the tornado watch is down by him too. So
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
15 minutes later, it'll be sunny and 45.
Yeah.
So, yeah. If you don't like it, just wait 15 minutes. It'll get better. I have to tell
and
you,
we're sunny and rainy down here.
Yeah, it's
or
been-
not sunny.
it's
We're
been on-
rainy and 65
it's
down
been
here.
on and off all day. Ty, I have to tell you, I guessed you're Pat Simmons. I have a fun, like, I've been to HOH a bunch of times, and I played with some.
You have,
some
that's
pretty,
true.
Yeah, all fact. I played with some pretty awesome people there. I think my second year I played with Paul Trulson, and I think I was naively unaware of how awesome he was. He also wasn't like actively curling at the time. But just a couple years ago, I got to play with Pat, and I played third. And I fancy myself as a decent curler, but nowhere near as good as the elites. But I was playing third, and like my first rock in our first game, or Pat's first rock in our first game, I don't remember. I think he was playing a hit on something. Like I put the broom down, and I literally got goosebumps thinking to myself, like, I'm holding the brush for Pat Simmons. Like that was like the highlight. It was like one of the highlights of my curling life. That was pretty awesome.
That's how I felt when I got to play third for Joel at Rice Lake. Got the big knock for him. Actually, no, that was chills from withdrawal from booze.
That was the 12th, third.
yeah,
Well, all the shots of Malort you had from the day before, probably. I'm sure that was the
probably
chills.
a few,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I hear
There
you
was
with
a few.
Pat. I mean,
Yeah,
even
man.
playing with him that week, at this point, we were, I think, just defending national champs or something, you know,
Yeah.
but we hadn't, you know, we're a tour team, you know,
Yeah.
top 15 team, but playing with Pat that week, it was, you kind of feel like a kid, you know,
Yeah.
like
I wish I
getting
would have.
to play with somebody like that.
Yeah, I mean, I wish, obviously, you know, the 3 games that we got to play together or whatever, I wish I would have gotten to learn from him, but I mean, it was pretty awesome to do that.
Yeah, I can remember specific moments in my curling career feeling like that too, like getting those chills when you move your way up through the ranks and you play against the guys that you've been watching on TV too. I remember making the quarterfinals in Brockville, long time ago now, with the old team when I was skipping, and looking at the draw board and seeing the names around mine for the quarterfinals were Martin, Gushu, Howard, you know,
Sure.
and then there's my name, there's George in the middle of it.
George,
And it looked so out of place,
Right.
like with everything else. Like it was just bizarre. And then standing on the ice in warm-ups for those games too, and
Sure.
having those guys on the
Just feel
sheets
like
next to you.
yeah.
Besides playing against
You
them,
feel like
just being on the ice with them.
you're Midwest
Like,
nice.
you feel like
You're humble,
Yeah,
and
like
you
I
just
made
feel
it,
like
you
you
know?
don't belong at some point, but you do. You've earned your way there.
I took a picture of the draw board
That's
just because
cool.
my name was up there with those names. Like it was so foreign looking to me. But to think that, you know, the work that you put in even gets you in the conversation as those guys, like in any given tournament,
Yeah.
was amazing. You know,
Well,
now you
Yeah.
look back on it, you know, farther down the road. Now those guys are your peers, and it's a lot different. But the first time you get in a situation, the first time you play slam, the first time you go to Worlds, the first time you even play in an event where those guys are there, it's really something. And to think that, you know, we've accomplished something now to the point that people might look at us that way it's a really weird feeling. Like it's cool,
Yeah.
and it's a responsibility too. but like it's so weird to look back at moments like that and remember how you felt, and now flash forward to where we're at now, and to think that other people might like feel that same way about standing next to you is it's pretty crazy, man.
Right. Chelsea, do you have like a welcome to the Scotties moment?
For me, my welcome to the Scotties moment was we fought for so long to get out of Manitoba, and like I didn't win in juniors, which as a Canadian curler who's had some success, like everyone won something in juniors. They won the provincial, they went to the junior nationals, whatever. I never did any of that. So I was 29 when we won our first Scotties provincial championship in 2014. And all I wanted, because I grew up watching my dad and whatever, and I wore his shirts and stuff, all I wanted was a buffalo. I want a buffalo, a bison, whatever.
Yeah.
I want it on my back.
I can remember.
And so they didn't send us, in previous years, they'd sent the jackets out beforehand, the uniforms out beforehand, but they didn't do it that year. So when you got to the hotel, you got your shirts. So I had the shirts, but they didn't have any, like at the time, they just said, it was just letters. They just said Carey, MB. And all I wanted was the crest, like the crest with the bison on it. And you didn't get that till you went to practice. So we went to practice the first day, and the jackets were waiting for us in the locker room at the arena in Montreal. And I put my jacket on, and I was like, I don't think my feet hit the ground.
That was it.
At any point in time. Like I ran to the bathroom. We were behind the sheet. I ran to the bathroom, which that arena was horrible. Like you were nowhere close. There wasn't actually even bathrooms in the dressing room. So you had to use the public bathroom.
Yeah.
And I just went in there to turn around and look at my back with the bison crest on it. It just was like, for me, a complete game changer. Like I'd worked my whole life for that. And it took me a really long time to win it compared to most people. And I finally did.
That's
and then
awesome.
obviously the first time we won was incredible.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
But the jacket, my Manitoba jacket is the one that sticks out the most to me as far as like a game-changing Scotties memory.
That's awesome.
I still have my jacket and polo shirts from 2001 Junior Worlds, and seeing your name, and Joel, I know you got a few of these too. Seeing your name in USA on a jersey for the first time, you don't forget that feeling.
No,
That's
I've got
great
one.
every time, but the first time is
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
There's something about the first time. I also still have a picture of Tyler wearing that said Manitoba jacket
Yep.
and me wearing his USA jacket.
Yep. My first
Yeah,
from my first
remember that.
men's, yeah. In
Yeah,
2010.
standing back to back. So like his says C. Carey and mine says George.
I think there's
It's on
also
the
a
wall.
pretty sexy picture of Tyler wearing a kilt and a Winnipeg
I was
Jets
also responsible
jersey.
for that.
Yeah, we know.
And I
That was
all the
also
credit for that one.
Yeah,
a totally
that
different
was-
set
that
of
was really cool.
circumstances, but an equally
Yeah.
good picture.
Probably the last time a bet has worked out for me based on my betting at the Brier, but you know, it was good bet.
I went boxers under the kilt, and that was it. It was really, really cold.
We were talking a lot about, and we played each other. Obviously, that
Yeah.
was where the bet came from.
Oh,
and
I
you,
was just
you
frigid.
were talking a lot about how
Yeah.
cold it was up the skirt there.
Every slide, the air just came rushing in. Oh my god, it was brutal.
It was a women's size small jersey. I would like to point that out. As
Oh,
well.
it was
That wasn't warm either.
it was
Do we have to ask a question, Ty?
it was crisp.
I've got a small shirt
You
upstairs
want a
of
kilt?
Chelsea Carey's that I could wear.
I did wear a kilt, yeah.
And then the question after that is normally,
That's why I wear
He
the
said he wore
boxers.
boxers under the kilt.
Yeah.
He already
He
wore
did,
it.
yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
He's not
So
Scottish.
he wasn't full
Still plenty
bore.
cold though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, going back to getting goosebumps. Like
Rio, they stole
I
again.
played third for Kevin Martin at the Lupus Spiel several years ago, and it's like that was just an absolute thrill. Like that was just amazing. And the funny part was like our first game, he comes out and this was like a year and a half after he retired from playing. He retired from playing, had hip surgery, and he says, "You know, Joel, I just gotta apologize for first off. Like, I haven't thrown a rock in a while, so it might be a little rusty." I'm like, I said, like, yeah, sure, Kevin, whatever.
Right.
Yeah, and like you see him come out, it's like, yeah, it's like Jesus, he's fine. So
Yeah, Kevin's more of a character than he gets credit for too. He seems kind of like deadpan a little bit on broadcasts on TV, but he's got a great sense of humor.
yeah, no, you get him going, like he's a pleasure to talk to and spend time with.
Yeah, I still remember the first time I got to play against Kevin, and that's a hell of a moment. Like, I mean, playing against anybody that you look up to is, but Kevin Martin's a legend, obviously. We played him at a slam, and he was beating my ass every which way from Sunday. He had the ice figured out, and I think it was my first slam too, so I was not used to, and Chelsea can attest to this, slam ice conditions are very particular. Like, it's different than anywhere else that you play. It's some of the stuff we were talking about with Donnie about how there's a shift, like from like hack to board, where the amount of curl changes completely, but it's really late breaking. Like it doesn't go that early, but when it goes, it is gone, like, completely. So Kevin's played 300 of these things, and I'm playing my first, and I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And we get like 4 ends into the game, and for the first time, we actually have a little end going. And Kevin's looking at it, he's kind of got his hands on his hips, and he turns to me like, "What, Ty, you really got us bone here? You really got us in a pickle? You really got us here?" Like, what, once? Yeah, the entire game? Yeah, I have the advantage. I'm gonna remember this moment, and obviously I did, because I'm telling you guys about it right now. But the first time Kevin Martin told me that we had him boned in whatever way,
I had Kevin Martin's number in one end in one game.
Yeah, that's how I felt at the time. That's like a claim.
It's like your merit badge. You earn a merit badge for that or something.
Sorry,
quick Kevin Martin story too, just about what the kind of guy he is too. He was the commentator at the Olympics, obviously, and after we won, we did a press conference. Lasted like 45 minutes. Kevin stood in the entryway the entire time waiting for us to be done, because he wanted to congratulate me and tell me how good I played in the final, and some other stuff that I'm not gonna repeat, because it's kind of personal stuff, but it meant enough to him with everything else that was going on. He stood there and waited the entire time for everything to get done, just so he could tell me that he was impressed and proud and congratulate me from somebody that had done it and knows exactly what I was feeling too.
That's pretty awesome.
But it meant enough to him to do that, And Kevin and I aren't close or anything. We're friends, we see each other, we talk, but it wasn't like you somebody who's a relative or a close friend that you expect to hear from. But it was one of those, like, you've done something that I understand and I appreciate, and I wanted to tell you about it. So, I mean, and he is that kind of guy too, but it's always behind the scenes. Kevin's not somebody that ever looks for the cameras or those things. It's very understated with him.
I can actually tell a corroborating story here. My dad played against Kevin forever, and I grew up watching him play and whatever. And unfortunately, my dad was on the wrong side of a number of those games. But
he's on a long list in that.
Yeah, at least he won in '92, and he didn't actually have to play Kevin, so that's a whole different story. In '92, they got the bye straight to the final, and then it was a Howard Martin semi, and so they went to watch it, and my dad's like, we watched like 2 ends, 3 ends, and no one missed anything. So we were like, we're getting the hell out of here. Like, I don't want to watch them play incredible before we have to play them. But so after we won the Scotties final in 2016, so my first Scotties win, I don't actually know why Kevin was there, because it was TSN. So he wasn't working with them or anything. I'm not sure. I'm sure he was there in some professional capacity, but I don't know what it was. But I remember the same thing. Like, after we were on the podium, we did the whole thing, whatever, and we were walking back to the dressing room, and he was standing there. And he said to me, "Your life just changed." And I'll never forget that. It just was like this, because you're still so high on the moment, like for me at that time. And when he said it, it's not like I didn't know that, but I just, like, the emphatic tone that I don't know, it's something about the way he said it. I just went like, this is a powerful thing that he just did for me. And he went out of his way to do it, to Tyler's point as well, to wait for me. because this was well after, like, this is 10 p.m. probably by the time I'm walking off the ice after the ceremonies and stuff, that he waited there for me to walk down the ice to tell me that, which is something that I'll never forget. It just was a moment that I was like, and I mean, any time that Kevin Martin, like, in my opinion, the greatest player ever in history, is going to take the time out to say something to you is a meaningful moment. But yeah, he said, your life just changed. And I didn't realize it till the next day.
Yeah.
I just, like, at the time I was just like, oh my God, yeah, you're right. I can't believe it, blah, blah, blah. But I was just like going 100 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day I thought about it and I was like, wow, like he did, like, he took the time out to say this to me. Like, that's wild, but it was awesome.
Is this red one on the back on this game that we're watching? Like, is Gunnar have a chance at 3 here or not? Doesn't look like it.
Is that rock biting or no?
I can't tell. That's what I was asking.
So Ty, that BC under is not looking very good.
Oh no!
I didn't do anything. I did a whole bunch of nothing. Thank goodness.
I'm losing.
Yeah, that rock's way off.
I'm losing all of them again. I think all of them.
We don't have very many rocks. Well, we'll probably go to another. Are there any more games still going that we're gonna go somewhere after this? Well, Chelsea.
I would imagine that in a 3-0 game, they can't be the last ones done.
Yeah.
They gotta be the first ones.
Well,
They gotta be the first ones.
I think Laycock and McEwen, or no,
Yeah,
McEwen, Shook.
Shook.
No, I actually think they might be the last
Oh.
ones done. And I'm a
Oh,
little
they're
ahead of you
shaking.
guys.
Laycock,
I really
Shook.
hope that this goes to last shot, but I mean, it probably can't because they're going to have to get 3. But I don't know that I've ever seen
Double centers.
in
Double centers!
any level of competitive curling, a 10-end game have every rock thrown and end in a shutout.
Oh no, that's definitely off.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Definitely off.
Even playing the 10th end doing that.
Right. Yeah. Chels, we don't have a lot of time left, probably because of the broadcast. Thank you for coming on and joining us. Is there anybody, you got any sponsors you want to shout out to or thank or whatever?
Yeah. No, I mean, there's plenty with my sort of new team, but they're on my team, so I don't have a list.
Got it. All right.
That's fine.
Just say
Hardline?
thanks to all the sponsors of our team.
Yeah. Thanks to every.
Hardline, Dynasty, and Ashen are common ones, so I would always thank all of them for everything that they do.
Got it.
They're gonna go off.
Oh,
They're gonna
looks
go
like
off.
it's
Oh,
off.
that's too bad.
Whoops. So close. Nice.
So, Chelsea, do you think one of the things I'm wondering about with you and Colin playing mixed doubles, you're the skip, he's the front end. Do you think that's the combination for mixed doubles that people are going for? Like, do you want to skip and a front end player? Because mixed doubles is everybody's kind of got to play a mix of both, right? At times. So is that the combination that you're going for?
Like I would say the role of skip doesn't matter as much, but I think you need a sweeper. So regardless of what that looks like, if you can both sweep, if whatever, but like you need somebody who can, at least one person who can sweep. Yeah. And then after that, like Colin is very involved in the strategy, which is fine with me. Some front end players would maybe be less involved. Like when Mike and Dawn, they only played together for a year, but when they played together, she didn't participate in that because that's just like not who she is.
Yeah.
But Colin is like, he's involved in it. But I think that you definitely need a sweeper, somebody who's a sweeper, not just like, not just about being a good sweeper physically, but about like judging rocks and all that stuff. I think that that's important. So that's what's worked well for Colin and I, is that like he's a sweeper. And originally we played around with me sweeping some of the rocks and it just didn't make sense. Like he can get, like, he's athletic enough to be able to get up and sweep his own, which is amazing because not everybody can do that. But I think it's less about a skip and whatever. I think it's more about a sweeper. You have to have one sweeper.
Got it. I like it.
The switch games now. Which game are we on?
We're on Wayne
Brunswick and
Madon
Carey
versus Jimmy Kidd.
Oh, Jimmy Kidd. Nice.
Do you have a nickname,
I love that
Chelsea?
we're all still calling him Jimmy the Kid when that was a nickname given to him in 1997.
Yeah. He was telling that story. I think was he doing a press conference? I think he was doing a presser, and he's like, "Yeah, I think he's like, I think Ray Turnbull or Russ might have given me the nickname." He's like, "I still can't go into anywhere," and somebody's like, "Hey, Jimmy the Kid." I don't
Yeah,
know,
like
was
he's in his
anything else.
40s, but
Yeah,
he's still Jimmy the
40s,
Kid.
46, I think. Yeah.
It was the Brier. That was the Brier. My dad actually beat them in the semifinal of that Brier.
Oh, rub it in.
97.
Just rub it in.
At the Saddle Dome. Well, no, but like they were children. Like
Yeah.
no one knew who they were. It was wild, and they just had this incredible week. And then they beat Ed Wernick in the 3-4 game. Ed Wernick in the 3-4 game to get to the semi. And the semi was an extra end. Like it was a fucking battle. And it was awesome to watch. They were, I remember everybody being really excited about them in 97 just because like they were young and whatever. We hadn't seen a young
Are they going to
team
get their
do
3
well in a
here? Go
while.
to an extra? Oh, man. There's your 3. Bonus curling.
Bonus curling.
Bonus.
Game just won't end.
Yeah. What do we got? Ties are going
I
to be...
seriously don't think I've ever seen a 10-end game
Yeah.
and in a shutout
And in
that
a
got
shutout.
Skip Stones in the 10th.
I don't know.
That's incredible.
Was it going to be Bomba time this year, Ty?
What's that?
Was it going to be Bomba time this year?
Well, they're going to do that. Hopefully they can keep other teams from scoring runs, though.
Right, yeah.
They didn't do much to improve that pitching staff, that's for sure.
No. No, I did not. What else we got? Are you actually curling at all, Ty?
No, I
No.
threw rocks a couple months ago
Yeah.
for a commercial for a mortgage bank and made everything. And that was it. That's the only
Perfect.
time I've thrown in the last almost year.
Perfect.
Actually.
Wow. Dang.
I really don't have some. And COVID obviously had a lot to do with that too.
Well,
I'm not
yeah.
gonna,
Yeah.
go out and practice
I
or
just didn't know
play in
if
a
you...
league game like
Yeah.
in these circumstances. So
That's what I meant. You're not playing league or anything?
no,
No. Got
nothing.
We've at least curled
Just the
outside,
commercial.
but-
That was it.
Yeah. Yeah. We curled. Well, we played an outdoor spiel and did it Broman style the whole time.
Yeah.
Brownie brush.
My father is telling me that I need to shout out our sponsor, George's Gold Medal Liquor.
Oh,
George's
absolutely.
Shopping Center,
Sorry, I did
Minnesota.
not. I'm sorry.
Responsible for this tasty beverage I have in my hand.
I'm
right
sorry I
here.
didn't give you a chance
Yeah.
to shout out your sponsors.
Well, I mean, it's kind of a sponsor. It's sponsoring what I'm doing right now.
What's your? I
What,
mean, you
what
own the
flavor
business.
is that,
Yeah.
Kai?
This is Indeed Chai Velvet Beer.
Nice.
Interesting,
Chai.
huh?
Chai,
Yeah,
Chai
Velvet.
Velvet beer.
Brewery out of the Twin Cities.
So
stuff.
if we're gonna have that strategy session with Old Fat Fashions, like, what if we could find a liquor store to sponsor that?
Yeah, if we could only find a liquor
If
store.
only you knew
to-
somebody.
If only
to
we knew
sponsor.
somebody. Yeah.
Just-
Imagine that.
Yeah, imagine
In
that.
case anyone hadn't put together the tie between George's Liquor and Tyler George.
Mm.
Imagine that.
Genius. Genius.
Huh. Who
I
who
still
can
think-
we think of?
I still think we need to get somebody from the Malort distillery on our show at some point. That would be.
Joel has tried a
That would be
zillion
fun.
times. He's tried.
Actually, I've tried once, but
Only once?
Not to get him on
All
the
right.
show.
Only
I'm
once.
sure Tremaine would come on if we asked him to.
Oh, yeah.
I've never asked them to come on the show. I've asked them to sponsor it, and they last time I tried that, they gave me a case of Malort. So I don't know how
Who
hard
is
I want to
Tremaine?
try.
I feel like that's like a torture device versus a benefit.
Who
Right.
is Tremaine, Ty?
He is the proprietor and owner, I guess, of the CH distillery that Malort is made out of in Chicago.
Yeah.
He was nice enough to give Joel and I a tour.
Yeah. Which we got one of Ty's
Flew in, I
gold
believe,
medals.
from Florida. And come hang out. Yeah, we got to see the back room, the reserve supply, all that stuff, the barrel aged.
I think just having,
rum-
I
the
think having
rum-
him on the show would
Yeah.
be fun.
The rum
Whoa,
barrel
whoa,
aged,
whoa,
the
whoa.
bourbon barrel aged.
Whoa. You said
Yeah.
barrel aged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is actually barrel aged. Like,
Yeah,
No. They have
yeah,
some
they-
barrel
whiskey.
aged stuff.
No, they took a batch of Malort, and they bought some rum barrels, and they bought some bourbon barrels.
I think
Is
so.
that right?
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
make
There's a
bourbon
rum
now.
one. There's a bourbon
Yeah.
one.
But they rum barrel aged Malort, and they bourbon barrel aged Malort.
This is freaking hilarious
Yeah.
because they're probably gonna like bottle it,
They
and then
did.
they have to like take the barrels out to the burn pile and burn them because they're shot. They're done.
I don't know what they're gonna do.
Well,
do
the
with
the
them,
best part of the tour was they just happened to be like mixing up. I don't know what you even call it, like distilling
They're mixed
in
up
one
a
of the
batch.
giant vats. And a guy came in. I swear to God, this is true. A guy came in a hazmat suit to
Yeah.
deal with it. Exactly how we pictured it.
Yeah, he's wearing a full hazmat
Straight-
suit, putting the wormwood into the
Straight out of Breaking Bad.
yeah. That's exactly what it was.
Wow.
Respirator, full white suit.
Wormwood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember why I couldn't steal away that day, but that would have been.
Yeah. But yeah, like the
When you're not,
rum
you're
barrel.
not curling, do you have a beverage of choice?
Me?
Yeah.
I probably would drink more wine than anything else, but I mean,
Vodka soda.
yeah, like a good
Mhm.
vodka soda, an IPA of some kind. I'm always on board with as well. And
So you're
Caesar,
more of a-
which is like very Canadian, but I would always drink a Caesar as well.
But you're more of a wine beer gal than a hard liquor gal.
Yeah, I actually grew up drinking a lot of rye whiskey. Now I generally I like gin a lot too, but I would generally lean towards like a gin or a vodka versus anything else.
Chelsea has grown to appreciate all the liquors.
So when you're bond stealing and you're not having to be competitive, you're gonna tap
doesn't
into the
happen very
rye
often,
whiskey
I don't
and
think.
the gin, and maybe not so much beer.
Yeah, I mean, when we're playing on tour, it's not like we're always sort of on. And at House of Hearts, it becomes more a survival mechanism than anything. So I go a lot of vodka soda or vodka water just to like try to at least somewhat rehydrate myself while I'm dehydrating myself.
Put some liquid into your alcohol, right?
Well, and actually, Tyler introduced me to the concept of a blue up, which I do
Mhm.
a
Oh,
bit,
those
but
are
with
so
like
good.
press,
Yeah.
like hard press, like half water, and then the rest a combination of the blueberry vodka, the orange juice, and the 7-Up.
Nice.
Ty, we had Ledrew on for our Scotties party. What is in a vodka Ledrew?
You talking girl Ledrew or boy Ledrew?
Girl Ledrew was on.
We had girl
the
Ledrew.
podcast was on the show.
A vodka Ledrew is vodka soda with a splash of cranberry.
I like it. All right. I'm interested. Yeah.
Is that disturbing that I know that immediately?
No, not at all.
Well, I knew that
No.
immediately too.
No.
Yeah, I guess yeah.
That's what I thought it was. I just
Yeah.
wanted to.
Oakville,
I wanted to
especially,
confirm.
you know that.
I wanted
Girl
to
for kids.
confirm.
Yeah.
If you pick Girl for Kids, you know that answer.
You've
Yeah.
had
Got
a
it.
dozen of them.
Is there a boy version?
Yeah, her brother Ryan.
I know.
Well,
I know.
yes,
Ryan.
there's a boy Ledrew, but
I
like,
know there's a boy Ledrew.
Is there a boy Ledrew
Is there
drink?
like? Is there a boy
You asked if there
Ledrew
was
and
a boy version of Ledrew.
oh. God damn it.
Oh.
No, the drink I think is just the same.
Okay. Got it.
I was just wondering which of them you had on the show, but
Yeah.
obviously if they talked about the cocktail, it was going to be Steph.
Yeah.
It was.
We
tough.
were talking Scotty. It was for our Tuesday Scotty's draw.
Mhm.
It was a very margarita.
Did you guys actually like watch the game and comment on it for that one?
No, it was kind of the same thing
Pretty much
here,
same as
where
this.
it was like
I
we-
was.
that was the plan, but we ended up just kind of like this, just BSing the whole time.
It was also a Tuesday, and we drank a lot of margaritas.
Yeah,
So you can guess how it went.
you can guess how that went. Yeah,
The margaritas were good though.
yeah. Who's got two thumbs and was hungover on Wednesday? This guy.
Yep. Who's going to win this? Wayne's going to have a draw to the button.
I mean, I'll take the team with the hammer if you guys want the other one.
No.
No, especially after the last. There's nothing else in play. That is Wayner all day long.
Yeah.
How easy can we donate money to HOH?
Don't bet against Wayne and the hammer.
Yeah, based on the last couple games, for sure.
I mean, Ty. I know Ty is a degenerate gambler, so I was just gonna say, I'll make a $20 donation to HOH, if you will.
I mean, you can just do that anyway.
I suppose I could. Yeah.
Yeah.
I should note that we're gonna do one final push with the gold medal version bottles of Malort coming up very soon here.
Nice.
We have like 60 cases left.
Okay.
We want to try to get rid of the rest of them, so we might do some promotion with like if you buy
I still got the one
a bottle, X amount of bottles, whatever, then you might get a Team USA signed curling jersey or something like that.
Who's got them?
But yeah, we're gonna do one more promotion for that and try to offload the rest of the cases that they have. We've already raised a whole bunch of money with those things, somewhere around like $5,000, I think.
That's awesome.
That's pretty
for
good.
House of Hearts from those bottles. So yeah, I'll probably ask on you guys to help promote that when we do it.
Absolutely.
I just have to finalize stuff with the CH Distillery people.
I was just gonna say I was just gonna ask who has all the cases of it.
Yeah, you can order those right from CH or
Liquor Barn
Biddies.
is the
Liquor Barn.
the store
They
that
ship.
you can go online and buy it from online.
They ship to certain states, not all the states, but they.
Check local listings.
Yeah.
Got it.
Check your local listings if you can get it shipped.
Ship it to me, and I will send you a shipment of cologne in a decorative decanter. Yes.
Chelsea, you might be out of luck. I don't know if we can ship that that far north.
Yeah, and I'm also not looking for Malort. Like, I would love to,
What?
I am not looking to own Malort or drink Malort ever in my life.
Yeah, but the special bottle with the gold medal curling edition, you gotta have that.
I mean,
you don't have to drink it.
Yeah,
as a trophy.
Yeah, the USA gold
It's on
medal
the
means
shelf,
a lot
yes.
to Chelsea from Canada. Not taking away from your gold medal tie, but probably means less to Chelsea.
But Chelsea, when was the first time you tried Malort? Was it in Canada or was it in the States?
No,
I
House of Hearts.
guarantee it was at the House of
It didn't make
Hearts.
that. It didn't
I
make it
didn't
that
hear
far
that.
north.
I didn't hear that.
House
Yeah,
of
it was
Hearts.
definitely at House of Hearts. I've never seen Malort in Canada. I've never found it here. Not that I've been looking for it either. So maybe it's here.
Not
but
up there.
We're all walking down the right aisle, but
So I think Canadian Customs opened a bottle, smelt it, tasted a little bit of it, and said, "Nope, not coming in our country."
going to kill our entire population. Maybe we don't want it.
Yeah, we don't need.
I got it in the Curl for Kids. It's made its appearance up there.
I know you brought it across before, but I don't think we can find it in Canada.
No, you can't. They don't sell it more than a couple states in the U.S. actually.
All right,
Yeah,
Chelsea.
which is fine with me.
Last minute question. One of the questions we asked in the podcast is, what's your dream team spiel team? So you can spiel with anybody, alive or dead, curler, not curler, doesn't matter who it is.
And
Politician.
some
Doesn't matter. Whomever you want to curl with.
you can be going
Who
to
would be your dream team?
Yeah.
fun spiel, competitive spiel.
Don't matter.
Caveat, because we're talking about spieling, you can take a 5-person team.
Yeah.
Yes, you can have 5.
Yeah.
You can have 5.
Yeah.
And they don't have to be curlers.
Someone's gonna
No,
part. Someone's
you can be
gonna
like,
part
I want to curl with the lead singer from Nickelback. I don't know why you would do that.
because you're Canadian. And
I want to curl with Shania Twain.
Yeah.
Well, number 1 on that list is I want to curl with Tiger Woods.
Nice,
All right.
like it. Number 2 is your dad.
Now I'm debating if the rest are curlers or not curlers.
So do you want? Yeah. So do you want to curl with 2020 Tiger Woods, or do you want to curl with
Probably not.
20 or
2020 was pre.
I mean,
accident.
basically what Tiger Woods just got done is what Wayne Middaugh already had done.
Right.
Good point.
Yeah.
Not affecting him very much.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I want to curl with like 2022 Tiger Woods
I
when he's
would-
had time to heal
yeah,
from that,
I
but
would
has all the
say,
stories still. I want the stories.
I'd make a
I've
recommendation
kind
that
of
you
the-
take one more curler because you're not going to have much
Right.
fun at a spiel if you don't take at least one more curler.
Oh, you can have a lot of
Okay,
fun on a spiel.
maybe one more curler. I want.
The start of this conversation, Chelsea, was curling based. Like, who, if you haven't curled with them yet, you know them, they're great curlers, you always wanted to curl with them. That was another part of that whole conversation. But now we kind of expanded it a bit to say you can curl with anybody.
All right.
But
Mhm.
just
So
throwing that out there.
we got Chelsea and Tiger Woods right now. Who else?
Mark Kennedy
Mark Kennedy.
can play any position in the world and is
Absolutely.
one of the best curlers at any one of them that
I
he
like
wants
it.
to be.
He could
Good
throw a
answer.
I was
sock.
thinking about curlers I haven't played with, and Mark was
Decent.
probably number one on my list, actually. Yeah.
That's good.
He's high on the list there for sure.
All right. You got 3.
And I get 5.
You can have,
Five.
yeah.
You can-
I mean, 5.
yeah.
If you really want to push it, we'll
4,
give you 6.
Yeah. Mhm.
Well, it's just a matter of how many curlers I pick versus how many like
You
other
do
people. I
whatever you
pick.
want.
It's
Like
your-
there aren't any rules.
It's your
Whatever you
choice.
want.
There's no.
We're real loose on
Yeah.
the rules. This is not a
No
professional
rules.
podcast.
Okay, I also want Vernon Davis.
Ooh, interesting.
Really?
All right.
Mhm.
I mean, a guy who actually knows something about curling, like quite a
And
few
is a
things
good
about curling.
athlete.
And it's a good athlete.
Like that, and it's just cool. Like
Yeah.
his interest in curling is just amazing to me. Like I love that. So
Agreed. Agree.
he's on the team,
Okay.
and then I feel like I need more curlers. So
Joel, are we gonna get a Joel Dietz double extra hand here?
Oh man, that would be something.
No way are they going to blank.
He's trying.
They're-
Uh-oh.
they're not-
Uh-oh. Tim March is really...
they're
oh,
they're
no,
not
they're-
that
They're
good.
good. They're good.
They're not that good.
They're good. Boom.
Got it.
Wayne
All right.
Madaw, shocking the world.
All right. You
no,
got,
actually, you know what? This is
Wayne
gonna be a
Madaw.
complete
Oh.
bullshit answer, but I'm gonna do it anyway. My dad.
I knew it was
Yeah.
your dad. I
Yeah.
knew it was your dad.
That's a good answer.
I can't think of it right
I
now,
like
but
it.
I would love to like have gotten to play with my dad, and
I
I,
like
never
it.
really did get to. So
Yeah.
he's
If
in
you
there.
can have anybody as a bartender, who you want as a bartender? You can throw one more person in there.
Derek Benson.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good. That's a good answer. That's a good answer. All right, we're
You're
gonna
hate
shut down.
yourself the next day.
Yeah.
I mean, I've lived his
Hey.
bartending before, but I can't not say him.
I think you're
Yeah.
gonna hate yourself the
Of that
entire
one for
weekend
sure.
if Derek Benson's along, but that's okay.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna shut down the stream for now. Ty and Chels, hang on for a minute afterwards.
Thanks everybody for
Yeah.
watching.
Thanks everybody for
Stay tuned.
watching.
We might do it again. Final,
yeah.
semifinal. Who knows?
Sweatcedo.com. Use coupon code
Growing
CurlingNation10
Nation 10.
to get 10% off your order. Also, thanks to alchemy.com, ALQIMI.com for
Computer stuff.
computer stuff, nerd stuff,
Yeah.
software development, healthcare, IT, big data.
Curling people.
Curling people, they sponsor a lot of curling, so thanks to them. Thanks for tuning in. And,
Huge thanks to Tyler George for giving us his time.
and Chelsea.
Huge thanks to Chelsea Carey
And Matt Dunstone,
Matt Dunstone.
the
Good
sheriff.
luck to him the rest of the way.
Yeah.
That's all we got.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
And
All right, everybody, thanks for listening to episode whatever. As Joel said at the beginning, it's going to honk on you. I'm definitely going to be using that in my curling terminology from now on. So thanks to Matt Dunstone and the sheriff for that new term in the curling world. I hope more people start using it, frankly. Also want to thank all of our sponsors, all 2 of them. Sweatcedo.com. Use CurlingNation10 in the coupon code or checkout, whatever. If you want 10% off a sweet looking Sweatcedo. Alchemy.com, ALQIMI for all your IT and computer stuff needs. They sponsor a lot of curling stuff. They're pretty dope. Follow us on the social medias, podcast, Facebook, Twitter, we're at Curling Nation, Instagram, we're at The Curling Nation. Find us on your favorite podcatcher. You can watch us on YouTube. We really want to thank, again, the sheriff, Matt Dunstone. A lot of good stuff out of him. Chelsea Carey and Tyler George with an absolute masterclass. Just a clinic on strategy. We hope to have them on again just to talk strategy and drink old fashions. That would be outstanding. So for myself, Joel Dietz, Garret Perry, our guests. Yeah, thanks for watching Curling Nation this week, everybody. Good curling. Out.